Hello and welcome to a live Deprogrammed with Keri Smith. Today is Monday, May 20th, and I hope you had a great weekend. I did. I unplugged a bit. It was awesome and had a great Sunday yesterday, just a perfect day. And I hope that you had a good time. It's beautiful weather in Texas. If you're in Texas, man, I know you probably enjoyed it. Welcome if it's your first time here. This is a Deprogrammed is a show about leaving social justice or woke ideology, which is the dominant ideology and I would say religion or cult in Western society today. Unfortunately, I was in it for 20 years before I left a few years ago, and we focus on all the things that that ideology really is versus what it says it is, and dissecting that through interviews with people who, like myself, who've left the woke cult, people who are in organizations like Moms for Liberty, Gays Against Groomers, comedians, cultural commentators, academics. You can go through the deprogrammed interviews if you would like to see some of those. And if you are new here and you are someone on the left, or you consider yourself part of the social justice left, or what's colloquially called the woke left, welcome. We've had many current community members, fellowship members who were also in that cult, and you are welcome here as long as you can keep it civil. You don't have to respect me. You don't have to respect anyone in the chat. Respect is earned. It's not something just given out willy-nilly. Otherwise, it means nothing. You earn respect. But I do ask that you're civil while you're here and you at least try to treat people like human beings. So welcome to new people. Hello, Brahma Bull. I see some. Hey, Brahma. If you're not familiar, we have a panel that we do every other Wednesday called That Christian Panel. And Brahma Bull's one of the panelists there. You can check out our recent episode. We had special guest Chrissy Mayer, and we talked about abortion and feminism and some of the same topics that I'm going to be discussing today. I also had an interview with actor Vic. Oh man, I have to write his name down phonetically because I always say it wrong. Mignogna, Vic Mignogna. And this is the second time I've interviewed him. It came out on Friday. The first time we talked about his hashtag Me Too cancellation. And this time we talked about faith and what it's like to be in the entertainment world and be a person of faith. So I highly recommend that interview. Vic is a lovely person, and you can find that one from Friday. Okay, Pirate Tomsky, our mod is here. You will respect my authority. Well, that's earned. You earned the wrench, sir. So yes, respect Pirate. um, welcome. It's good to see you folks. It felt like a long weekend for me. I think because I just wasn't online very much. I kind of did a peace I'm out post and then wasn't around very much. So one of the things I was talking about last week, though, even on Friday and before my little hiatus, was this speech at what is it? Benedictine College? Is that how you say it? Let's see, Benedictine College, yes. By a footballer named Harrison Butker. Now you're gonna realize very quickly, I don't know anything about football. I didn't know that he was on Taylor Swift's team. And apparently that's a very famous team. They won something. I'm joking here. I know a few things. I don't know very much though. But Harrison Butker was asked to give a commencement speech at Benedictine College, which is a Catholic college. He is a Catholic. He gave what I'm not a Catholic, but I loved his speech. And he gave what I thought was a speech very in line with Catholic beliefs and Catholic values and what used to be very mainstream beliefs and mainstream values, traditional values. And he gave this to a Catholic audience. I have a friend who was there in person. She had a child graduating. Everyone gave a standing ovation. She said the audience, like the room, loved it, the temperature of the room. People loved the speech and where it was given. It makes sense that they would. But then the speech hit the media and something very interesting happened. It's almost like it reminds me of the Jason Aldean attempted cancellation when Jason Aldean, the country singer, put out the song "Not in a Small Town." The way that the media reacted and the way they tried to cancel him over that pretty innocuous song, and then that sparked a lot of people actually listening to the song, downloading the song. I downloaded it. People were showing their support, and that song went to number one or something. And it was a huge hit because they tried to cancel him. And I love that. I love when cancellations go wrong. And so the media seized onto this speech and started doing what they do, the usual suspects. Um, they've called him misogynist, a right winger. They've said he's espousing extremist views. And most recently, I saw it yesterday that they're calling him anti-Semitic, which is just like, what? What? We're just going to throw the whole kitchen sink in now. Where did that come from? Okay. A lot of the people criticizing it, I can tell, have not watched the speech. But yet, when some woke people I know who I interacted with last week, um, I posted excerpts from the speech thinking, okay, if they're not going to watch a 20-minute speech, maybe they'll read the excerpt and see he's not saying what they think he's saying or what the media is telling them he's saying. And they still listened to those portions or read those portions, and they are hearing something that's not there. So I'm something of a woke whisperer, being in the woke cult for 20 years. And I'm here to explain. I was jokingly said today's episode is going to be good for woke people because I'm going to explain to you why a lot of us women didn't hear what you thought you heard. And it's also going to be a good episode for normal people. That's kind of a little joke there. Normal, but we are. And this is gonna be a good episode for normal people so you can understand what the woke hear and why they hear it, why they're primed to hear this. If you're sitting there flabbergasted, like, wait, he didn't say that stuff that they're alleging, what's going on? I'm gonna try to explain it. Okay, let's see. We're gonna start with the speech. Let's listen to this. It's a great speech, and so many times I find people do commentary kind of stuff. The media does commentary. They never show you the source material. So we're going to look at the source material. Hello, leftists. If you're here joining, like I said, welcome. It is always good to go to the source material so you can hear straight from the horse's mouth so that you can know you're not being manipulated. So, as I said, some people I know watch this and still came away with the same woke opinions. Maybe you will too. But we're going to watch it so you can hear exactly what he said instead of being told what he said. So, let's start. Get the volume up on this. They have the whole speech up on the Benedictine College YouTube page, which is great.
Ladies and gentlemen of the class of 2024, I would like to start off by congratulating all of you for successfully making it to this achievement today. I'm sure your high school graduation was not what you had imagined, and most likely neither was your first couple years of college. By making it to this moment through all the adversity thrown your way from COVID, I hope you learned the important lessons that suffering in this life is only temporary. As a group, you witnessed firsthand how bad leaders who don't stay in their lane can have a negative impact on society. It is through this lens that I want to take stock of how we got to where we are and where we want to go as citizens and, yes, as Catholics.
So first of all, again, context is important. He's a Catholic giving a commencement speech at a Catholic university to a room full of Catholics. So you're going to hear a Catholic perspective. Whoa! Why would they invite a Catholic to speak at a Catholic university and say Catholic things? That's crazy. Okay. One of the things he starts off here with is he acknowledges the fact that this was the graduating class who many of them were not able to have a high school graduation because their high school graduation happened during the crazy authoritarian lockdown COVID policy years. And he's talking about how you got to witness firsthand how bad leaders make bad decisions. Now, he keeps using this woke phrase that I'm not a fan of. He's talking about how you should stay in your lane. I hate that phrase. But I understand the way in which he's trying to use it. I hate the phrase because the woke abuse that all the time, but let's be real, they abuse all language. They view Marxists, any kind of Marxist, even identity Marxists, which is what the woke are. It's based around identity and power, not around class and wealth like old school Marxism. But the identity Marxists, they use words as tools just to manipulate. They don't use words as tools to communicate more effectively and to get your point across more effectively. They use them as weapons, as tools. So that's why they contradict themselves all the time. That's why language to them, words don't have to mean a whole lot. That's why they change the definition of words like woman or harm. And one of the phrases that they use and abuse is stay in your lane. They abuse it. The woke often use it to try and shut you up. They have many phrases they use to try and end conversation, end discourse. So you can see they're not using words to continue discourse and to explain themselves. They use them to end conversation. And so they use this phrase, stay in your lane, to basically say, you don't have a right to that. Instead of engaging with your opinion or your facts, they say, you don't have a right to that opinion or those facts. I don't have to listen to you because you're out of your lane, stay in your lane. This isn't your lane. They say this to men when they express an opinion about abortion, for example. You're not allowed to have an opinion. Why? Because of your biological sex, because you're a man. Pretty sexist, right? But it is a sexist cult. Okay. Let's continue.
One last thing before I begin. I want to be sure to thank President Minnis and the board for their invitation to speak. When President Minnis first reached out a couple of months ago, I had originally said no. You see, last year I gave the commencement address at my alma mater, Georgia Tech, and I felt that one graduation speech was more than enough, especially for someone who isn't a professional speaker. But of course, President Minnis used his gift of persuasion and spoke to the many challenges you all faced throughout the COVID fiasco and how you missed out on so many milestones the rest of us older people have taken for granted. While COVID might have played a large role throughout your formative years, it is not unique. Bad policies and poor leadership have negatively impacted major life issues. Things like abortion, IVF, surrogacy, euthanasia, as well as a growing support for degenerate cultural values in media, all stem from the pervasiveness of disorder. Our own nation is led by a man who publicly and proudly proclaims his Catholic faith, but at the same time is delusional enough to make the sign of the cross during a pro-abortion rally.
Now, these are Catholic beliefs, and I'm not a Catholic, as I said, and you may not share his individual specific opinion on each issue. He's naming a lot here: abortion, euthanasia, IVF, but overall, in the context of a thing, I don't have to agree with every single thing a person says in order to find his speech as a whole very positive for culture. And again, if you're surprised that he's speaking Catholic beliefs at a Catholic event for Catholic people, then I think you're a little delusional. I thought this was funny. Hey, Tracy from Keto and Crime, she says, OMG, I'm gay. And I said gay things in a gay bar. Keri, OMG, call the police. Yes. It's so strange that you would say gay things in a gay bar to gay people. It's so strange that you would say Catholic things at a Catholic graduation to Catholic people, right?
He has been so vocal in his support for the murder of innocent babies that I'm sure to many people, it appears that you can be both Catholic and pro-choice. He is not alone. From the man behind the COVID lockdowns to the people pushing dangerous gender ideologies onto the youth of America, they all have a glaring thing in common. They are Catholic. This is an important reminder that being Catholic alone doesn't cut it. These are the sorts of things we are told in polite society to not bring up.
I'm pause just really quickly here to say he spends a lot of time. He's calling out Catholics here. He's saying, look at these Catholics who are supporting things that are anti-Catholic, that are not Catholic beliefs. Joe Biden doing a sign of the cross at an abortion rally. He says that's, I mean, it's heretical. It's absolutely absurd, appalling. And especially from a Catholic perspective. And it's so funny because a lot of secularists, I find, people who are non-believers they criticize believers when they offer commentary or critique or criticism of culture, and they sort of say, stay in your lane or whatever. They say, why don't you criticize the church? Why don't you criticize your own? Why don't you criticize the church and the problems in the church? Okay, he is. He spends a good portion of this speech criticizing the church and the wokeness, the ideology that's at conflict with the church, that's at conflict with the gospel, at conflict with Christ, that has infiltrated. That's what he's talking about. He's calling out Catholics here.
A negative impact on
Oh,
society.
sorry, I rewound it.
Used his gift of persuasion, media, all stem from the pervasiveness of disorder. Our own nation is led by a man who publicly and proudly proclaims his Catholic faith, but at the same time is delusional enough to make the sign of the cross during a pro-abortion rally. He has been so vocal in his support for the murder of innocent babies that I'm sure to many people, it appears that you can be both Catholic and pro-choice. He is not alone. From the man behind the COVID lockdowns to the people pushing dangerous gender ideologies onto the youth of America, they all have a glaring thing in common. They are Catholic. This is an important reminder that being
I just want to say hey to my friend Ellen here. I didn't know you were going to be here. Ellen's my friend who was there in person and had a glowing report of the audience reaction. And she says, yes, he was calling out Catholic leaders, Catholic religious leaders, and Catholic men and Catholic women. He was not speaking of non-Catholic responsibilities. It's very important. This is, I guess, in the world we live in now, it's very different than this would have been before the internet and the way that the media and the 24-hour news cycle works now. But in the past, it's like, this is a Catholic speaking to Catholics at a Catholic event. But now it's on the global stage and everyone who is not a Catholic is, I'm offended. Like, okay, well, I guess Catholicism offends you. But don't go to a Catholic university, then you might hear a speech like this.
being Catholic alone doesn't cut it. These are the sorts of things we are told in polite society to not bring up. The difficult and unpleasant things. But if we are going to be men and women for this time in history, we need to stop pretending that the Church of Nice is a winning proposition. We must always speak and act in charity, but never mistake charity for cowardice. It is safe to say that over the past few years, I've gained quite the reputation for speaking my mind. I never envisioned myself nor wanted to have this sort of a platform, but God has given it to me, so I have no other choice but to embrace it and preach more hard truths about accepting your lane and staying in it. As members of the church founded by Jesus Christ, it is our duty and ultimately privilege to be authentically and unapologetically Catholic. Don't be mistaken, even within the church, people in polite Catholic circles will try to persuade you to remain silent. There even was an award-winning film called Silence, made by a fellow Catholic, wherein one of the main characters, a Jesuit priest, abandoned the church and as an apostate, when he died, is seen grasping a crucifix, quiet and unknown to anyone but God. As a friend of Benedictine College, His Excellency Bishop Robert Barron said in his review of the film, it was exactly what the cultural elite want to see in Christianity: private, hidden away, and harmless. Our Catholic faith has always been countercultural. Our Lord, along with countless followers, were all put to death for their adherence to her teachings. The world around us says that we should keep our beliefs to ourselves whenever they go against the tyranny of diversity, equity, and inclusion. We fear speaking truth because now, unfortunately,
I'm gonna stop here for 1 second in case there are woke people watching who are upset. Let me say this. And I'm gonna remove him for just a second. So a lot of you, especially the ones without a belief system that you recognize, that you're aware of, because I think everyone has a belief system. You may not think so. You may not think you have one. I think you probably do. A lot of people who are non-believers, though, who don't believe in God, are often saying, your religious beliefs should not have any bearing on your opinions, your political opinions, your opinions in the public sphere, otherwise, or on law or anything. And I now think that's hogwash. And even some people who claim to be believers say this, and I think that's hogwash, because your system of morality, whether or not you're aware of it, your belief system impacts your political views all the time. In fact, my old belief system, woke or social justice, the cult of social justice, is currently the predominant religion or belief system or ideology in this country, and it is influencing politics on a massive scale. As he calls out one part of it, DEI, that's one part of it. That's just one part under this umbrella of social justice and woke ideology. What is this ideology? I'll define it again, because even this last week I had someone say, I dare you to define woke. Okay, been there, done that 100 times, dude. You don't know anything about me, obviously. Woke is a belief system that has, or social justice is what it used to be called. It's a belief system that has roots in Marxism and postmodernism. That's not really that important. If you don't understand what those are, I'll try to give you, Marxism for dummies. Marxism basically said the best way to look at the world is as a competition for wealth among class groups, and that this is what keeps some groups oppressed, without wealth, and other groups are oppressors. And we need to take that wealth and the means of production, producing that wealth, and we need to redistribute it forcibly. The government needs to do that. And then we're going to have an equal society if we do that, where everyone's equal. We redistribute the wealth and the means of production. This new kind of mutated Marxism, which is called social justice or cultural Marxism or identitarianism or identity-based Marxism or woke or any of these terms are talking about the same thing. It says, no, the best way to look at the world is as a competition for power among identity groups. So it goes broader. It goes broader than just money. It's talking about power. And it's talking about identity groups, not just what class group you're in, but your race and your sex and your sexuality and all this. And it says we have to redistribute power, because if a group doesn't have power, they're oppressed, and the oppressors have all the power, the oppressor groups. And so we have to take power and we have to redistribute it among groups forcibly. The government needs to do this, and we need to do it socially, enforce this until we somehow reach some utopia where these groups have equal power. I don't know how you're supposed to measure that. They never give you examples on how to measure that or determine that. But because they believe you have to do this, this is why you see them, even though they say they're against racism and sexism, woke people, this is why they support racism and sexism. They support discrimination in law and, in hiring practices, in college admissions. They're totally cool with it. Some of the prophets of this ideology, like Ibram X. Kendi, they're even on the record saying explicitly, yes, racist discrimination is required in order to end racist discrimination. That's what they say. He says unfortunately, we have to discriminate until we can reach this magic utopia. They believe racism cures racism. They believe sexism cures sexism. They're not liberals. It's not liberalism that they're preaching. Although a lot of the clueless people in it, the people I encounter online who try and come at me or whatever, they don't know. They call themselves liberals. They don't know. They've never even read the theory that they're speaking. They don't know where any of this comes from. They've picked it up. It's colloquial now. They picked it up from their friends. You know why? Because this started with the theorists who are writing all this boring gobbledygook stuff with roots in Marxism. And then it gets filtered down. I picked it up. I read the theory in college. So you got universities. I read it as far back as the late 90s when I was at Duke. They're reading it. The people of my generation were indoctrinated on this stuff in the elite universities. The people of my generation went out then into the world, into their careers. We were taught to take it into our careers with us to transform the world, right? This is how we're going to make things equal. So they took it out into the world. They took it out into their jobs at social media companies, in media, in politics, in education. That was a big one. Teachers took it into the classroom. So it's like my generation, I picked it up in college. I never picked it up in elementary or middle school or high school, but the young people today picking it up in kindergarten even. They're being taught this stuff in kindergarten, not the theory. They're being taught what the theory says about how the world works. That some people are privileged and some people are marginalized and some people are oppressed and some people are oppressors, and it all has to do with identity, with whatever race group they're in or sex group, and that's how we treat people. We should treat people like what identity group they're in, and we should not treat them like individuals. Ugh, God forbid. And so all these people are running around preaching this stuff now. They've never read the theory. They're disconnected from it. They don't even know what they are. That's why I said they may think they don't have a belief system. They do. If they're preaching these ideas, they do. And so they're running around saying this stuff, not even realizing what they're a part of, like not even realizing what they're pushing. I got a little sidetracked defining woke, and I lost my original point. We're just going to bring him back to the stage. I'm not going to delay. It'll come to me what I was going to say, but I'm glad I defined it for people who are new and are like, I bet you can't define woke. It's so funny because then when you do, they skedaddle. It's like crickets are like, oh, or they just try and then make a joke, a dismissive joke.
Fortunately, truth is in the minority. Congress just passed a bill.
Oh, this is my point. So he said, we're being told not to bring our Catholic beliefs into politics. My point is that you guys who are out there preaching woke, whether you know what it is or not, whether you've read the theory or not, but you're preaching it in your words, your action, your behaviors. You guys have brought your religion. You have brought your DEI, your critical race theory, your feminism. You've brought it all, your gender ideology, trans ideology. You've brought all of it into politics. You've brought your religion straight in. And because you say, well, there's not a God in my religion, it's cool. It's not cool. A lot of people, we don't agree with your religion. We don't agree with these religious beliefs. They are religious. You adhere to them religiously. Parts of the way in which you guys behave is you've adopted even like liturgy, like you repeat certain mantras and phrases like liturgy. It's very religious in nature. You have certain rituals that you do, say their name, you have a concept of sin. Yours is called privilege. Confess your privilege, check your privilege. You've brought your faith in, and yet you tell people of faith, don't bring your belief. No, you're a Christian. Well, your belief system shouldn't have any impact on the way you view the world or on our laws or on your vote or anything. They even have a litmus test. Who was telling me this recently? It might have been in a video. I can't remember, but somebody was saying to me, no, they have an actual litmus test for Supreme Court justices about whether or not they agree with Roe v. Wade, like they don't. Can you imagine a litmus test going the opposite direction where you're bringing people in? Okay, you've been nominated for the Supreme Court. If we were able to get to the point to flip culture to where we're saying, have you ever pushed this horrible, evil belief system, social justice? Do you believe in DEI initiatives? Okay, well then you're out. Like, do you believe in racial discrimination at college admissions? Well, then you can't be a Supreme Court judge. Like, we don't have a litmus test for you guys. Kind of wish we did, I'll be honest. But you have it. You have it for people who believe that killing a baby inside the womb is murder. He's got a great point. He's got a great point that if you are a Catholic, if you're a believer, and not even a Catholic, just say a believer, a Christian, if you've been manipulated by this new culture to tell you that for some reason you're supposed to keep your faith quiet, divorce it from it's the way you view the world. It's your belief system. It's like glasses you put on. That's what every belief system is. It's glasses you put on that you look out into the world and you interpret the world through it. Of course, that should have a bearing on your opinions on politics. Of course. I think it's a great point he's making. It took me a while. I'm belaboring this because when I left the woke cult, I tried to be in that place for a while of just like, I'm going to be neutral. I had a lot of brainwashing to get past. And one of those things that took me a while to get over was the idea that your faith, your belief system should be some secret thing that you keep locked away in a box. That's like, he's right. It should not be. It's the whole way you view the world.
Bill, we're stating something as basic as the biblical teaching of who killed Jesus could land you in jail. But make no mistake, before we even attempt to fix any of the issues plaguing society, we must first get our own house in order, and it starts with our leaders. The bishops and priests appointed by God as our spiritual fathers must be rightly ordered. There's not enough time today for me to list all the stories of priests and bishops misleading their flocks, but none of us can blame ignorance anymore and just blindly proclaim that that's what Father said. Because sadly, many priests we are looking to for leadership are the same ones who prioritize their hobbies or even photos with their dogs and matching outfits for the parish directory. It's easy for us laymen and women to think that in order for us to be holy, that we must be active in our parish and try to fix it. Yes, we absolutely should be involved in supporting our parishes, but we cannot be the source for our parish priests to lean on to help with their problems. Just as we look at the relationship between a father and his son, so too should we look at the relationship between a priest and his people. It would not be appropriate for me to always be looking to my son for help when it is my job as his father to lead him. St. Jose Maria Escriva states that priests are ordained to serve and should not yield to temptation to imitate lay people, but to be priests through and through. Tragically, so many priests revolve much of their happiness from the adulation they receive from their parishioners, and in searching for this, they let their guard down and become overly familiar. This undue familiarity will prove to be problematic every time, because as my teammate's girlfriend says, familiarity breeds contempt. St. Jose Maria continues that some want to see the priest as just another man. That is not so. They want to find in the priest those virtues proper to every Christian, and indeed every honorable man: understanding, justice, a life of work, priestly work in this instance, and good manners. It is not prudent as the laity for us to consume ourselves in becoming amateur theologians so that we can decipher this or that theological teaching, unless, of course, you are a theology major. We must be intentional with our focus on our estate in life and our own vocation. And for most of us, that's as married men and women. Still, we have so many great resources at our fingertips that it doesn't take long to find traditional and timeless teachings that haven't been ambiguously reworded for our times. Plus, there are still many good and holy priests, and it's up to us to seek them out. The chaos of the world is unfortunately reflected in the chaos in our parishes, and sadly, in our cathedrals too. As we saw during the pandemic, too many bishops were not leaders at all. They were motivated by fear of being sued, fear of being removed.
This is so true with this part. I love that he's talking about this. I'm going to take this down for a second. Again, I'm not a Catholic, but there were so many churches of all different denominations that just like cowards, like church mice, just like closed up shop. I talked about it at the time because I was infuriated. On the one hand, they're not fulfilling their obligation. You're like a hospital for souls. You don't think people are going to be having soul problems, needing soul doctors during a pandemic, during a time when the government is just injecting them with fear nonstop, the media nonstop, telling them they can't leave their house, they have to wear a mask, they have a mask on their kids, they can't go to work, they can't operate their small business. Of course, all the liquor stores and all the big box chain stores can stay open, but not small businesses. You guys have to stay home. All this craziness is happening, and the church leaders who close their doors, I'm not going to miss my words. I think you completely failed your congregation. You failed your sheep. And actually, though it was infuriating, it was a good talk about a litmus test. I mean, if I had been going to a church at that time who did that, I would not be there today, because you showed me who you are. During hard times, we see who you are. We see your character. We see if you're a leader or not. You just close your doors. Give me a break. My church started during the lockdowns. That's how I found them. I was looking for churches that were open. Church on the Square in Georgetown. First service at a guitar shop right during the lockdowns. I'm like, oh, I saw an ad on Facebook. Of course, now Facebook has penalize them and they can't advertise. But at the time, a lot of us found that first service because there was an ad up. I'm like, I want to go check these guys out. I was going to different churches that were open at the time. I had just been visiting a cowboy church, which was cool. That was outside at the pastor was on horseback, but that was that was kind of fun, but it wasn't really, I knew it wasn't going to be my home. But this church was amazing. They did the opposite. They opened their doors. They founded a church during the lockdowns. How badass is that? Pardon my language. They're like, oh, we're going to start the church now. Okay, cool. I'm there. But he's so right. You failed your flock. Like, you showed who you are. I couldn't respect you if you were supposed to be my church leader and you did that during those lockdowns. I don't know. Maybe you learned your lesson since then. Maybe you didn't. But I did want to say Brahmable. He's the one who was telling me, thank you for reminding me during our abortion show. If you guys want to go watch that episode, he was the one telling me about how they have litmus tests for abortion in the Supreme Court, which kind of made me think about that differently. So thank you, Brahma. Mark, thank you for the super chat for $2. Thanks for all you do for the channel, time, and research. I appreciate it. Thank you for the $2 super chat. And Keto and Crime. Tracy says, I'd rather have the NFL full of men like him than the ones that beat women and father many kids with many women. Right. And where's the media outrage about that? This guy's getting all kinds of flack because he talked about, oh my goodness, he talked about family values. So it's like 24, it's been going on for 3 or 4 days now, right? The hate at this guy, the media's just lost their minds. They're losing their minds over him. They're so mad. Where's that reaction to the guys who actually there's a lot of stories of NFL players doing pretty terrible things and just kind of ignored by comparison, right?
Fear of being disliked. They showed by their actions, intentional or unintentional, that the sacraments don't actually matter. Because of this, countless people died alone without access to the sacraments, and it's a tragedy we must never forget. As Catholics, we can look to so many examples of heroic shepherds who gave their lives for their people, and ultimately, the church. We cannot buy into the lie that the things we experienced during COVID were appropriate. Over the centuries, there have been great wars, great famines, and yes, even great diseases, all that came with a level of lethality and danger. But in each of those examples, church leaders leaned into their vocations and ensured that their people received the sacraments. Great saints like St. Damien of Malachi, who knew the dangers of his ministry, stayed for 11 years as a spiritual leader to the leper colonies of Hawaii. His heroism is looked at today as something set apart and unique, when ideally, it should not be unique at all. For as a father loves his child, so a shepherd should love his spiritual children too. That goes even more so for our bishops, these men who are present-day apostles. Our bishops once had adoring crowds of people kissing their rings and taking in their every word, but now relegate themselves to a position of inconsequential existence. Now, when a bishop of a diocese or the bishops' conference as a whole puts out an important document on this matter or that, nobody even takes a moment to read it, let alone follow it. No. Today, our shepherds are far more concerned with keeping the doors open to the chancery than they are with saying the difficult stuff out loud. It seems that the only time you hear from your bishops is when it's time for the annual appeal, whereas we need our bishops to be vocal about the teachings of the church, setting aside their own personal comfort and embracing their cross. Our bishops are not politicians, but shepherds. So instead of fitting in the world by going along to get along, they too need to stay in their lane and lead. I say all of this not from a place of anger, as we get the leaders we deserve. But this does make me reflect on staying in my lane and focusing on my own vocation and how I can be a better father and husband and live in the world, but not be of it. Focusing on my vocation while praying and fasting for these men will do more for the church than me complaining about her leaders. Because there seems to be so much confusion coming from our leaders, there needs to be concrete examples for people to look to, and places like Benedictine, a little Kansas college built high on a bluff above the Missouri River, are showing the world how an ordered, Christ-centered existence is the recipe for success. You need to look no further than the examples all around this campus, where over the past 20 years, enrollment has doubled, construction and revitalization are a constant part of life, and people, the students, the faculty and staff, are thriving. This didn't happen by chance. In a deliberate movement to embrace traditional Catholic values, Benedictine has gone from just another liberal arts school with nothing to set it apart to a thriving beacon of light and a reminder to us all that when you embrace tradition, success, worldly and spiritual, will follow. I am certain the reporters at the AP could not have imagined that their attempt to rebuke and embarrass places and people like those here at Benedictine wouldn't be met with anger, but instead met with excitement and pride. Not the deadly sin sort of pride that has an entire month dedicated to it, but the true God-centered pride that is cooperating with the Holy Ghost to glorify him. Reading that article now, Shane, can have a negative impact on
Oh
society.
no, every time I pause it, I go backwards by mistake, but I'll find where I was. Maybe somebody in the chat with keen eyes can tell me where I was. I just wanted to pause it for a second though and say this. This is where that one little quote there about pride itself having a whole month dedicated to it, that one little quote is enough for them to say, he hates gay people, he hates trans people, he hates LGBTQ plus IA 2472. It's if you don't know gay people or trans people who are critical of pride, the Pride Month, and of the Pride flag, and of the way in which their identity, put that in quotes, is being used to further this woke ideology, this social justice ideology, then you need to diversify. I'm going to use your word, diversify your social circles. If you only know gay people who are woke, like you, what cult? Again, you're in a cult. And it's so funny because you should take your own advice. You're always talking about like diversify your own social circles. Meet some people who just meet some gay people. Yeah, meet some gay people. Meet some base trans people. Do you not even know that they exist? Like LGBTQI 2472 is being used in the same way that women are being used, that Black people are being used, that every identity group is being used by this ideology as cover, as shield, to push this belief system and try and make it mainstream. If you don't think that there are those of us in those different so-called marginalized or oppressed groups who can see how cynical this is, who can see what's being done, like, then you're very naive. You might be an adult, but you're very naive. So, are you not curious at all in getting to know when you hear that there are based gay people or trans people or Black people or women, or you just don't wanna you just believe the cult's lies, you just believe, "Oh, they have internalized their own oppression, and I don't want to know them or hear what they have to say." Is that what you're like? You just you're not curious at all why they have those different opinions when you've been told that all these different oppressed identity groups, agree with woke and that woke speaks for them. You're not curious about the ones who say, "Hey, doesn't speak for me. Hey." There are lots of reasons to be critical of Pride Month and the Pride flag, and I don't even see I took a picture recently, I talked about it on the stream with Mike Harlow, of, this ridiculous over the top pride display at my Petco I was there with my dog to get him groomed, not that kind of groomed, and there was, a month ahead of Pride Month, they already had it out. They already had all the "Show your pride." Again, this is a religion, this is a belief system, it's being pushed under the guise of speaking for identity groups. They're using gay and lesbian people, they're using women, like, whatever the month is. I feel the same way about the Women's Month stuff, by the way, when I see it. Cynical, corporate wokeness, trying to get your dollars by using ideology and simultaneously pushing that ideology further into the world. I said that new pride flag should just be called the communist douchebag flag because that's what it is. It's not about gay and lesbian and trans people. I think you're blind if you think that. You think that's what the pride parade is about? It may have been at one point. I've been to many, 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 many pride parades in my old life when I worked with comedians and I represented several who were, one who in particular who was pretty big in the LGBTQ24 community, and she performed at pride parades all over the US. I've been to a lot of them. I'm trying to look back on that time period and see if if it got worse or if it was always like that and I couldn't see it back then. But if you wanna make an argument they used to be about LGBT rights or fine, I don't know. I'd have to think about that more. But I'll tell you what, today, it's not about that at all. It's about the sin of pride. It's about the sin of gluttony, sexual gluttony, immorality, excess. A lot of gay people are sick of it because it's sort of creating this false stereotype that all gay and trans people, when I say trans people, I mean people with gender dysphoria who try to present as opposite sex, that they're all, you know, deviants and perverts, because that's what pride is about now. It's about perversion. It's about nakedness and sexual perversion in front of children. Lots of reasons to be critical of Pride Month, and it doesn't mean you hate gay people or trans people like they're saying about him. I'm glad he brought that up. Does anybody know, let me just check the chat real quick. Does anybody know if because when I tried to pause it, I accidentally. Oh, this is also interesting. I don't think I'll get to this today, but I wanted to show this. I saw this. Adam Worrell says trans is now deemed as a mental illness in Peru based. I saw that. That just happened. Somebody mentioned it to me in a stream and I was like, "Wait, what happened?" So they declared it a mental illness, which is, it's kind of weird because it was always, until recently, it was always treated as a mental illness. It is a mental illness. Gender dysphoria, like body dysmorphia, is a mental illness. It was always in the DSM. It's only in the recent, like, 5 to 10 years that they're starting to try and push this ideology on kids and say that it's normal. It's not normal to wanna cut off your body parts and to believe that you're born in the wrong body. That's not normal. It's like body dysmorphia, where you look at your body and you wanna starve yourself, or you say, "I'm fat," when you're not fat. You know, you're not looking, there's something wrong mentally. And there are based trans people, people with gender dysphoria who admit this openly, and they have my respect. Respect is earned because they're not trying to push some false thing on me where it's like, "No, I'm really am a woman now, and we must all pretend that I've actually changed my sex and that there's nothing at all abnormal about this, or that it's not a mental." It is a mental illness. It is. Sorry. And one of my friends, I've mentioned this before, one of my friends who's trans, who lives tries to live and present as the opposite sex, has expressed to me that he's pretty upset with this becoming part of the social justice woke ideology now, where it's become this mainstream trend and this whole belief system being pushed on kids and everything, and on the medical field and everything, because he's like, "You know what that means is that now they're not gonna try and figure out why I had body dysmorphia. Like, they're not gonna try and figure out what's wrong with people who have, gender dysphoria. They're not gonna, if ideology, which is what's happening and has happened, if ideology, social justice, woke ideology scoops this up, gender dysphoria, which they've done, and try to say this is normal and everybody has to figure out if they're cis or trans. There's 2 options, you need to pick it, just like picking your favorite color, kids. Everyone grapples with this. No, they don't. No, they don't. Until you started pushing this on children in schools, it was like less than 0.01% of people who ever had gender dysphoria and had to grapple with it. Now it's like every kid is like, "Oh, I should decide which I am." No! It's like saying, "Hey, kid, you want a mental illness? Pick yours." Like, and so for people like my friend who were like, I would kind of like for science to figure out what caused my my gender dysphoria. Like, that's not going to happen because they don't view it as mental illness anymore. So good for Peru. Good for Peru. Based. Exactly. Mr. Generation. Thank you. 1050. Thank you, sir. Somebody else may have posted it before you, but you're the first one I saw. I appreciate it. Thanks for helping me find my place. Awesome. Good looking out, friends. Okay. Is that how the young people say it? They say friends. Okay, here we go.
Surrender of self and a turning towards Christ, you will find happiness. Right here in a little town in Kansas, we find many inspiring lay people using their talents. President Minnis, Dr. Swafford, and Dr. Zimmerer are a few great examples right here on this very campus that will keep the light of Christ burning bright for generations to come. Being locked in with your vocation and staying in your lane is going to be the surest way for you to find true happiness and peace in this life. It is essential that we focus on our own state in life, whether that be as a layperson, a priest, or religious. Ladies and gentlemen of the class of 2024, you are sitting at the edge of the rest of your lives. Each of you has the potential to leave a legacy that transcends yourselves and this era of human existence. In the small ways, by living out your vocation, you will ensure that God's church continues and the world is enlightened by your example. For the ladies present today, congratulations on an amazing accomplishment. You should be proud of all that you have achieved to this point in your young lives. I want to speak directly to you briefly because I think it is you, the women, who have had the most
Let's pause this. We really have to belabor this. I'm sorry we do, but for any woke people listening, this is the part the media, and then because of the media, the woke puppets, this is the part that they're have the most anger over, and it's like they can't even hear what he's saying. I'm going to back up for a second.
To this point in your young lives. I want to speak directly to you briefly because I think it is you, the women, who have hands on an amazing accomplishment. You will ensure that God's
Here we go.
church
Let's start
continues
here.
and the world is enlightened by your example. For the ladies present today, congratulations on an amazing accomplishment.
Okay, let's start there. These are women who are graduating from this university. First sentence. To the ladies here today, congratulations on this amazing accomplishment. Let's go back to elementary school for a second. He's calling them graduating from college what? Amazing. Is that a positive adjective? Yes. Does he think it's a positive thing? Yes. What's he calling their graduation? An accomplishment. Is accomplishment a positive word? Yes. Is he like, okay, there's nothing that, here's what the woke heard. And I'm going to, to the ladies here today, you suck. You shouldn't have even gone to this college. This is all trash. That's what they heard. That's what they heard. He said, congratulations on an amazing accomplishment. They heard, your degree ain't worth shit, ladies. Get back in the kitchen. That's what they heard. That's how they felt personally. Like he said that. Ugh! It's kind of crazy. Congratulations on an amazing accomplishment. Apparently they think this is a dog whistle or something, but if only you hear the whistle, like maybe your dog. I don't you're what did you congratulations on an amazing accomplishment. How dare you? How dare you say this isn't worth anything? How dare you? Imagine if you had to live with these kind of feminist puppets in your marriage and you're like, hey, thanks for making a delicious meal. And they're like, go F yourself. How dare you say that? What? I said, thanks for making a delicious meal. Well, I heard your cooking's terrible and don't ever do it again. Like how could you hear this? Congratulations on an amazing accomplishment, ladies. That's what he said. That's what he started with. Okay.
You should be proud of all that you have achieved to this point in your young lives.
You should be proud of all you've achieved in your young lives. You should be proud of this accomplishment, of all you've achieved. What did they hear? You should hate yourself. You've wasted all of your feminine ovary time here, wasting time trying to do math and science things like the men's. That's what they heard. He said you should be proud of all that you've accomplished. They heard, suck it, women. I just okay, let's continue.
I want to speak directly to you briefly because I think it is you, the women, who have had the most diabolical lies told to you.
This is true. This is absolutely true. Women, one of the woke people I was talking with, let me take this down for a second, was really upset about this part. Women you have had, he says, I think you have had the most diabolical lies told to you. First of all, are the women to blame for that? No. Let's look at that sentence. Women, you've been lied to. Is he putting blame on women? No. He's not even putting blame on the women. He could. I do. I put blame on myself. I fell for those lies. You know, these lies are real. Do you know what he's talking about? Have you looked at women's rates of depression, unhappiness, anxiety over decades? You should look at it. I've covered it before on the show. Women are unhappier now than they have been ever. Since the 50s, it's just been declining since women entered the workforce en masse, just declining. And I'm not saying, I'm not saying it's just because they entered the workforce. I'm saying maybe all the different things we could ask questions about, all the different things that come with that, and the culture that's telling them that their value comes just from their career, that they should delay starting a family, they should delay becoming a wife and mother, or that they should never do those things. Those things are terrible. Are you a breeder? I heard that a lot. The lies I was told by the feminist movement, and I started hearing these lies, like I said, thankfully I didn't hear them in high school or before that. I heard them at college. My minor was women's studies, okay? So everything I was hearing is, you're a victim, you're in an oppressed class, you're in an oppressed group, this world is a patriarchy. It This is, does it sound familiar? It's like the woke ideology. They go in and they take all these different identity groups and movements, and it's all sucked up into this one umbrella of woke that covers all of it. But basically, if you're in one of these so-called oppressed identities, it's all about how your identity group makes you an oppressed person. We need to destroy the patriarchy. The world is set against you. The world is created to rob you of power and give power to men. Um, you know, Going along with marriage is bad. Look, here, let me put this up for you. I've got some quotes here from the theory. Now, like I said, a lot of the people who speak this stuff and believe this stuff, they've never even read the theory. They don't know. But maybe I'm going to try to make this bigger. These are lots of quotes from feminists. Now, I'm not going to get really specific, but feminism is supposedly divided into waves. Once again, just like with the gay pride, maybe you could argue I'm still rethinking first and second wave feminism and whether they were ultimately a huge detriment to society or not. I think maybe second wave was. I'm still thinking about it. I'm not sure. But third wave, that was the part I was in. Absolutely a detriment to society. Third wave feminism was all about destroying patriarchy and gender norms and everything traditional, destroying the nuclear family. Does that sound familiar? That's what queer theory is about. Queer theory is also about destroying the nuclear family. Imagine that. Black Lives Matter is also about destroying the nuclear family. Oh, weird, right? That they all have roots in this same Marxist identity, Marxism ideology. Let's read some quotes. Don't take my word for it. Again, if you're speaking woke and you're just on the street, you picked it up through Facebook and through your friends, and that's what culture's doing, and you're just a fish swimming in the culture and kind of oblivious, and you just swim in whatever water you're in right now. You don't look at it objectively. You're not you don't even think you're swimming in water. You don't think you have a belief system. It's all around you. So you're like, what belief system? This is where your belief system comes from. Okay. Third wave feminist ideology. I'm going to read a couple quotes from some famous feminists. Linda Gordon, the nuclear family must be destroyed. Whatever its ultimate meaning, the breakup of families now is an objectively revolutionary process. Robin Morgan, she's the editor, used to be the editor of Ms. Magazine. I feel that man-hating is an honorable and viable political act, that the oppressed have a right to class hatred against the class that is oppressing them. Do you see here why I say this has roots in Marxism? It's all the same language. She's even saying class hatred, but she's using class as like identity group. But the language is from Marxism. Here's another one from her. I haven't the faintest notion what possible revolutionary role white heterosexual men could fulfill, since they are the very embodiment of reactionary vested interest power. See, it's all about power. Okay, men, they have power. We have to take it from them. It's all about pitting identity groups against each other. So that necessarily means sexism against men. That necessarily means racism against white people, against whatever group they say is the oppressor. That necessarily means bigotry against straight people. Okay? Because they want to get rid of everything that's the norm or traditional, including marriage. Here's a quote from her. We can't destroy the inequities between men and women until we destroy marriage. I've read entire books about this subject where they would say openly, that the feminists would be, who I used to agree with, they would be saying it's a shame that marriage exists because we're finding it harder to create division between the sexes than we did between the races, because men and women marry, right? We're heterosexual creatures, normally tradition, like the norm. And so we've got to destroy that. We have to destroy that as a norm. Okay. So that we can separate men and women and have as much animosity between these groups as we're fostering between races. They've said this. They also, a lot of the third wave feminists, Catherine McKinnon's one of them, Robin Moore, they were all talking about how any kind of heterosexual sex is rape, because they want you to stop having heterosexual sex. So they call it all rape. Here, look, I claim that rape exists anytime sexual intercourse occurs when it's not been initiated by the woman out of her own genuine affection and desire. Wait, there's another one down here. I was thinking of, Andrea Dworkin. Look, Andrea Dworkin, heterosexual intercourse is the pure formalized expression of contempt for women's bodies. She famously said she doesn't have intercourse because it's rape. That's her choice. They called all men rapists because they say all heterosexual sex is rape. Because you know why they say that? Because they say women as a group don't have power. Therefore, they can say they consent, but they're not able to consent because we don't have power. There's one by, I'm still looking for that one. Here it is. This one. Look at this one. Catherine McKinnon. Another radical third wave feminist. All sex, even consensual sex between a married couple, is an act of violence perpetrated against a woman. Politically, I call it rape when a woman has sex and feels violated. Look, they have an actress lumped in here, but a lot of these are architects of the belief system. Andrea Dworkin was an architect of the belief system. Look what she says about men. Men love death. In everything they make, they hollow out a central place for death. What a negative way of looking at men. Even at war, it's a very negative way of looking. It's a very much like men are the protectors because men are physically. This is because of nature. This isn't because of society. It's not society constructing this. It's because they're bigger. They're the bigger sex. So to say all of that is like men engage in violence because they just love death and they just love violence. It's such a dark, simplistic way of looking at men. There's so much of this male hate in third wave feminism. Men are rapists, batterers, plunderers, killers. Men have claimed the earth. This was in a book called Pornography, Men Possessing Women. Andrea Dworkin, I want to see a man beaten to a bloody pulp with a high heel shoved in his mouth like an apple in the mouth of a pig. This is a woman who said men love violence. Okay. She said men love violence, but she wants to see this happen to a man. That's what she fantasizes about. Tells you a little bit about her, right? About this belief system. She's considered one of the greats of feminist theory. Here's another one of the quotes about marriage is rape. Marriage as an institution developed from rape as a practice. I'm going to stop sharing these now, but you get the idea. This is third wave feminism. Now, again, if you're just joining, you hate what I say on Facebook or whatever, you found that, you say, well, I've never read that and I don't believe that. Okay. But you are speaking beliefs and opinions that have come from this theory that have filtered down. And I would argue that the reason you're so upset by what this guy said is because you've adopted a lot of these beliefs without even realizing it. They've shaped your opinions without you realizing it. You've absorbed it through culture. You've absorbed it through peers, through social media, through the media. You've absorbed it in that way. And like I was kind of joking about before, but I'll say it seriously. You are like a fish swimming in water who doesn't see the water. What water? Because it's all around you. Keto and Crime, thank you for the super chat for $5. Tracy says, but some of these same women openly support the porn and sex worker industry. Yeah, there was a big schism. There's always schisms in the feminist movement, right? Between the sex positive ones, they called it sex positive ones, and the ones who were anti-porn. Deranged lunatic DL. So the author of that article is a lesbian. Andrea Dworkin, I think she was a lesbian. I can't remember. Somebody looked that up and put it in the chat, but she said she never had heterosexual sex because that was rape. Good grief, feminists are freaking sadistic, aren't they? I mean, that's the thing is that I feel like if we could get, the street woke people who speak woke on social, they have no idea what they're speaking. The soccer mom wokes, the young hipster wokes. If we could get them to actually read the theory that all of this comes from, maybe you could help. Maybe we could open their eyes a bit about what their belief system is, where it came from. It's kind of like listen, wokes, it's sort of like I'm sure you might criticize people who are raised in the Christian church and never actually read the Bible or the text or have a connection to it, and they just pick it up because it's the culture they're raised in. That's what we're saying about you and woke. You've just absorbed it. You've just picked it up. It's the culture you've been raised in. It's the culture I was raised in. Again, fortunately for me, not starting until college, but for younger people younger than me, they were raised in it at a much younger age. You just picked it up. And maybe you should read the texts that go with it so you know what religion you're a part of. Hey, Randy, thank you for the super chat for $10. Randy says, the man haters are in for a big surprise after they destroy our country. The Islamists and or communists that eventually take over will enslave them first order. Oh, yeah. A huge surprise. Absolutely right. Andrew Joyner for £2. Robin was one of the first TERFs. LOL. I know. See, this is what's crazy is as third wave feminism played such a big role in a lot of their writing. A lot of the theory was about creating in all of our minds the idea that sex and gender are separate things. Third wave feminists did this. They're the ones who put this out into the world and say, oh, they're different things. And, because usually over all of human history, gender and sex refer to the same thing. It's two different words. You use them interchangeably for the same thing. My gender and my sex are both, they're the same thing. Female, right? I'm a woman. I am a female, biologically female. They separated those things because they wanted to criticize what they said was the social construction of gender. So they said, women, biological sex is one thing. And, I'm a woman, that's my biological sex, but I don't have to be all the things that society says I do. Gender's a social construct. So I don't have to do all those. I don't have to be feminine and blah, blah, blah. I agree with them that there's no one way to be a woman. You can be a tomboy. You don't have to dress in a feminine way like I agree with that. But by separating those things out and saying they're different things, then okay, because this ideology just mutates and keeps changing and picking up new things. This ideology then mutated, and the TRAs, the trans rights activists, the gender ideology people started coming in and saying, hey, these are separate things. And so don't worry, we're not going to touch biological sex. Of course, we would never do that. We're just going to say, hey, it's possible that I'm born a biological man, but my gender is female. And they started running with that, and they promised, they were like, we're not going to touch biological sex. That's a fixed thing. Obviously, that's what they said. Now flash forward, now we're at this part where they're saying biological sex isn't real and that babies are assigned sex at birth, or it's observed. It's not assigned, it's observed. They're saying it's assigned. You're just given this randomly. It means nothing, right? Now this is the craziness that third wave feminism opened. And now, like you pointed out in the chat, a lot of the third wave feminists are like, what? No. Men aren't women. They're very upset. Well, hello. The ideology kind of led to this. Thank you, Andrew. Deranged lunatic DL. The more I hear, the more satanic it sounds. Yes, to me too. If you're a believer, I think it probably will sound satanic because it's an inversion. It's an inversion of everything normal. They say right up front, all this critical theory, they say they want to make, queer theory says this, feminist theory says this, they want to destroy everything normal, all societal norms. They want to destroy everything traditional because they believe those norms are oppressive. They believe that they're only norms, not because of nature or biology or human ontology, not because of the nature of being. This is how things are, and we are. They say these are only norms because of the oppressor groups, identity groups, the oppressor identity groups who are in power have made these things norms. That's what they say. So, for example, with third wave feminists, they say we have to redistribute this power, give women more power until we reach equality because men are the oppressors. And when we do that, heterosexuality will not be the norm anymore because the heterosexuality is just oppressed. The only reason it's the norm is not because of biology or nature. It's just the norm because of oppressors, oppressive men, right? That doesn't even make any sense, by the way. It doesn't make any sense because if all men wanted was if they made heterosexuality the norm, why? So they could, what these people say, like, control women's sexuality and have sex when they wanted, and all heterosexual sex is like rape. It doesn't make any sense. If men were just oppressors setting whatever norms they want, then I would think that homosexuality would be the norm because men are more likely to have anonymous sex than women are, so they could just go to other men. Like, they could just go there. Like, they would just have, they have all these apps for anonymous gay male sex. Like, it's be much easier for them than setting up a norm to, marriage so we can get the women. A lot of their beliefs are very absurd like that, right? This heterosexuality is just an oppressive norm that men created so they can have easier access to women's sex. What? It's biology. It's how babies are made. It's not a societal thing. It's biology. Okay. You don't have to be a believer in God. I mean, I am. I believe God created man and woman to be a union, to be a one flesh union, and to create families. But take that out of it. Let's say you're an atheist. It's like, okay, then just look at science, look at biology. It makes too much sense, though. Uh, thank you for the super chat. Tracy from Keto and Crime for $10 says we won the choice to do either one, and now it's you have to essentially be a man. That's the lie. We're not the same as men, hence all the depression, in my opinion. Yes. She's talking about where third wave feminism helped to take us as part of this woke social justice ideology. It's so funny because it came like a snake eating its tail. What's that called? Ouroboros? It's like it came around full circle. So the third wave feminists helped to say, gender and sex are different, so we can attack gender roles, right? And so we can push up women and push down men, right? Okay. But then it's come full circle where now the TRAs are saying, well, men are women because gender, and they're saying men are women, and now we're going to go into your spaces, and the women and the third wave radical feminists are pissed, and it's kind of crazy. The whole thing is a crap show. It's all a crap show. Tracy from Keto and Crime again for $5. Thank you, lady. Says some of these feminists have never had a good beep, and it shows. Well, they're pretty unhappy. I got that one. Thank you, Andrew. I think I got this one too. Okay. Let's get back to this video or we're never going to make it through. This is, again, the part where he's talking about women. And I paused it on the part where he says women have had the most diabolical lies told to you. They have. And I'll just summarize it with this. These are some of the lies I believed. I believed that my career was more important than probably any family role. If I have to objectively look back at it, I believed my career, your career is your career accomplishments. That's what you should be aiming towards. That's the most important thing. False. So false. I believed, and feminism told me that motherhood was an oppressive institution, that family even in many ways was an oppressive institution, that the concept of submitting to my husband and to my loving husband was oppressive and misogynistic, that all of Christianity was oppressive and misogynistic, that traditional family roles was oppressive. I believed all of that. I was part of the third wave feminist group that called people breeders for having children early. I came up in a culture that looked down our nose at that. I was told it's totally normal not to want to have kids. That kids are going to get in the way of your career, that kids are, just looked at like as something negative, or that you can, if you change your mind, you can always do later. I'm living proof that may not be true. I'm finding it difficult now, obviously, as you age, if you decide you want kids, the odds are a little harder. My doctor's like giving me a list. I have to tell you real quick. My doctor's giving me a list of the odds, right? And the numbers. And I knew it going in, but it was funny. And I'm like Jim Carrey and Dumb and Dumber. I'm like, so you're saying there's a chance? Right? He looked at me like I was crazy. But seriously, you're saying there's a chance? Okay, gonna keep trying. But yeah, it's harder. And a lot of women, young women today, the lies that they're being told by feminism, it's like on steroids. It's much worse than the lies when I got them. And I got them later in life. They're getting them younger. They're being told that all of their value is wrapped up in their career accomplishments, money, status, all these meaningless, ephemeral things that mean nothing. These temporary things. I would argue that none of those things are true. The most important, meaningful roles in life are family roles. Of course. Why is that so controversial? I don't get why that's so controversial. Here, let's continue. We're going to hear him say this in his own words and talk about how they completely mangled and bastardized what he was saying.
You should be proud of all that you have achieved to this point in your young lives. I want to speak directly to you briefly because I think it is you, the women, who have had the most diabolical lies told to you. How many of you are sitting here now about to cross this stage and are thinking about all the promotions and titles you are going to get in your career? Some of you may go on to lead successful careers in the world, but I would venture to guess that the majority of you are most excited about your marriage and the children you will bring into this world. I can tell you that my beautiful wife, Isabel.
I have to pause it right here and we'll go through quickly. I won't do long rants, but he said, the majority of you, I would guess the majority of you are most excited about becoming wives and mothers. Let me get the exact quote here. Let's hear it one more time.
To you briefly, because I think it is you, the women, who have had the most diabolical lies told to you. How many of you are sitting here now, about to cross this stage, and are thinking about all the promotions and titles you are going to get in your career? Some of you may go on to lead successful careers in the world, but I would venture to guess that the majority of you are most excited about your marriage and the children you will bring into this world.
Okay, what is wrong with that? He's not saying, here's what they heard. Your career means nothing. Abandon those pursuits now. Don't try to even have a job or career, ladies. Your degree is crap. You shouldn't have even gotten it. Don't even try. You just need to go, all of you need to go home now and become wives and mothers. That's not what he said. That's what they're hearing, though. It's incredible. It's incredible. He said, congratulations on your amazing accomplishment. You should be proud of all you've achieved. And then he said, some of you are thinking about the promotions and titles you're going to get in your career. Some of you may go on to have successful careers, but I would venture to guess the majority of you are most excited about your marriage and the children you'll bring into this world. That is true. Let me tell you something. Again, he's speaking to a room full of Catholic women. You think they're not most excited about becoming a wife and mother out of they're not more excited about that than their career? Of course they are, because they have their values straight. I would even venture to guess, this might be a controversial opinion in the comments, I don't know, but take this speech outside of a Catholic university. I think the majority of women would be most excited if this ideology hadn't perverted their opinions and ideas and their opinions of what's valuable in the world. I think deep down they are most excited about family and meaningful relationships. They've just been pushed into thinking they're going to find meaning and value in all these other places. So they go out and they get the career and they have the career accomplishments and they find it's not filling that void. I've mentioned before, I go into some dark forums on Reddit. I don't know. I like to see just like I like true crime. I go on Reddit and I read these terrible, terrible accounts that people have in relationship advice forums and stuff like that. And all of these women posting, I would say probably most of them don't believe in God. If you ask them, they don't have very deep beliefs. They might be woke. They don't know. They wouldn't be able to articulate what their belief system is, but I'm sure they have one. But they go into these forums and they're posting like open letters, letters they're not going to send to guys and stuff. And all of these posts are like, I know it was supposed to be no strings attached sex, and I say sex, but I fell in love with you, and I just don't understand why you can't. And I lie awake every night, cry, and it's just all of these heartbreaking posts of women pursuing something meaningful. Now, I would argue first they need to find God. I'm going to be that lady. You need Jesus, first of all. But after that, it's like, yes, it is right that you have this heartbreak and this hole and this wounding because you're looking for a man, you're looking for a partner, you're looking for your one flesh. You are created to be in this union. And so even though ideology and culture has taught you that your value is to be found in meaningless NSA sex and, you should go, that's empowering. You should do that. And you should find it in your career. And they're in there posting about how great their life is on paper, but how unhappy they are. And they're all chasing these unavailable, unattached guys. And they're all, I know that I wasn't supposed to catch feelings, but it's been 3 years of our unattached sex, and I just am so in love with you, and I don't, and I'll never send this. And it's crazy. So I would argue he's right. Most women, if they weren't being lied to by the world, would admit it's a basic truth that for men and women, the most important role you're ever going to play in your life, ever, is husband or wife or a parent, mother or father. Those are the most important vocations in life. They're more important than your career. He's not saying you can't have a career too, by the way. Did you notice? They're more important than your career. They're more important than your job. Fulfilling those roles. And part of fulfilling those roles, at least one of you is going to have a career or a job because you've got to make money to feed your family. You have to do that. But to prioritize the job and the career and say it's more important is wrong. That's what gives you your identity, I think, is wrong. Your identity's in your job, what you do for a living. Come on. That it's that meaningful and valuable. No, it's your family. It's your friends. Those are the most important roles out of all the roles we play. I play lots of roles as well. I think it's very meaningful critiquing social justice ideology, my old belief system. I think it's really important that people do it. I'm doing it the best I can from my perspective as someone who had been in it, was in it for so long. That's why I do this. I'm not rolling in the YouTube dollars that some people think, oh, it's a grift. No, I was making a lot of money pushing woke. Okay. This is so much more important. So much more important. It's important to me, obviously. That's why I get up and do it. That's why I go and speak at the times I go and speak publicly to get experience speaking in front of crowds, and I wanna do more of that. You know, I'm trying to remember if I have accepted a fee before, but most of the time I don't. It's not a money thing. Most of the time I haven't accepted one. I go out because it's like I wanna be speaking about these things. It's important, obviously. But is it more important than my role as wife? No! No! And I was talking with some people online, feminists, and also they were saying they were basically, I guess, arguing that your career and what you do for a living and your passion and stuff is more important. No, it's not. And if this ever interfered with my marriage, done. This is over. Obviously. Somebody said to me, well, I'm going to save this for that part of his speech. Let me add it back. Okay, so he said, I would venture to assume that the majority of you are most excited about the families you're going to raise, about becoming wives. He said, most excited about your marriage and the children you'll bring into this world. That's not a crazy statement. That's true. Not just for Catholic women. I think it's true for most women.
I can tell you that my beautiful wife, Isabel, would be the first to say that her life truly started when she began living her vocation as a wife and as a mother. I'm on this stage today and able to be the man I am because I have a wife who leans into her vocation. I'm beyond blessed with the many talents God has given me, but it cannot be overstated that all of my success is made possible because a girl I met in band class back in middle school would convert to the faith, become my wife, and embrace one of the most important titles of all, homemaker.
That is beautiful. Beautiful. He got choked up. He made me get choked up talking about his wife. It's beautiful. Like what he said about her. What seemed to me very authentic emotion he has about her and her sacrifice. And about thinking about their marriage. Just the way that affected him. So beautiful. And how crazy that this is the part that the media they've taken the most beautiful, truthful part of what he said, and this is the part that they have smeared and tarred and attacked and turned upside down and held it up as something misogynistic and hateful. There were women, clueless, harpy, shrews, feminists in my comments saying, I feel so bad for his wife. You know who doesn't feel bad? His wife. I can tell you that. Hateful woman. You hateful, hateful bitches. Sorry. Miserable. That's why you want to tear this down, because you saw a man in an authentic moment of beauty that you've probably never had anybody talk about you that way ever. Have you? Let's be serious, be real for a second. I think that's behind a lot of the animosity. Let's be real. How much he loves his wife. He said, and he mentioned this twice in the speech, that his wife would be the first to tell you, that her life truly began. Let me find the exact quote. He says, I can tell you that my beautiful wife Isabel would be the first to say that her life truly started when she began living her vocation as a wife and as a mother. Yes. One of these woke feminists asked me, like, trying to be pokey, I guess, at me, was like, you've only been with your husband for 4 or 5 years. Would you say your life didn't begin until you got married to him? Yeah, in many ways, yeah. Duh. Do you know who I was before? Do you know what my life was before? I'll clarify on this. And I said to her, no, it didn't. My new life started when I found Jesus Christ. That's when my new life started. And it's very much like the scripture about the old self and the new self is so true. The way I think about my old life is I refer to it as the old life. It seems like a different person sometimes. I'm not saying that to distance myself from it or not take responsibility for being a part of WIC or any of that. Obviously, I do that all the time on my channels. Here, trying to take responsibility for having been a part of it. But I'm saying the way I think about it is weird. It's like it was like a different lifetime. Like I've been blessed to live 2 lives in this one life. Blessed that God gave me this life. All my husband followed shortly after that. How amazing is that? God's given me so many miracles since I found Jesus. I got sober. I met my husband and we got sober together. I have this beautiful marriage with trials, just like any person. But you know what? With God, like, we've come out on the other side of those trials because we have something to go to at the foundation of our marriage. And it worked. It's worked. Even when my Adam nature was doubting, like, is this gonna work? Even when I was at, like, I don't know, like, we were having a rough time at one point, and it was like, God came through every time. When we are able to pray together, we have a we have a shared belief system. So when you have normal problems that you have in a marriage, you're gonna have normal things that come up, much less when you have traumatic things that you're dealing with together. You have something to go to and turn to. You have a bedrock of belief that you share together. So you're not just, like, wandering like a fish out in that water, like, not seeing the water. Like, what do you go to when you're a feminist? And my old self, like, I didn't have any we didn't have a shared belief to go to. Um, so yes. Did your life begin? Yeah, of course. It began with Jesus, and then I really started living this vocation of wife is the best, without hands down, yes, to answer your question, the best vocation I've ever had, better than any career or job or any other role I've ever played. Yes. And this person said, "So you're in your 40s and you haven't been able to have kids yet. So does that mean you're not complete?" Little hateful way to say it, right? But okay, it's true though. Does that mean I'm not complete? No. But does that mean but if we're able to become parents, is being a mother gonna again become the most important vocation along with wife that I've ever taken on, more important than any career or any career accomplishments or money or blah 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 blah? Yes! Duh! If it's not the most important vocation for you, you're a working mom, and you say, no, being a mom's not the most important vocation, not for me as an individual or for society. I'd say you're probably a bad mom. Like, or as a wife, if you say it's not the most important, if you're working also and you have, no, it's not the most important vocation. You know, my job's here, my husband's down here, then you're probably a pretty shitty wife. Like, you have your priorities out of order. It's just incredible to me what these people are trying to say. The hoops they're jumping through to make this a bad thing that he said. It's not a bad thing. He's speaking truth, and he's speaking it beautifully about his wife. I'm gonna back up just a little. Here we go.
In band class back in middle school would convert to the faith, become my wife, and embrace one of the most important titles of all, homemaker.
Listen to that applause. Oh my goodness, they must have hated it, what he said, right? Oh, they didn't hate it. They loved it.
She's a primary educator to our children. She's the one who ensures I never let football or my business become a distraction from that of a husband.
Do you hear what he just said right there? She ensures that I never let football or my business become a distraction to being a husband and father. He just said the same thing about himself and men that he said about women, that his career is not more important than his roles, his vocation as husband and father. He just said the same thing about men, that him being a husband and him being a father are the most important roles in his life, more important than his football career, more important than his business, and his wife helps him. That's what spouses do, is they help keep each other in check and help keep each other on the path. That his wife ensures that for him and helps him with that. He just said the same thing about men and himself that he said about women. And they can't hear that. They missed that somehow. They missed that very important line. That his wife helps make sure his football career and his business do never distract from his important roles as husband and father.
And father. She is the person that knows me best at my core, and it is through our marriage that, Lord willing, we will both attain salvation. I say all of this to you because I have seen it firsthand, how much happier someone can be when they disregard the outside noise and move closer and closer to God's will in their life.
Yes.
Isabel's dream of having a career might not have come true, but if you asked her today if she has any regrets on her decision, she would laugh out loud without hesitation and say, heck no.
Wonderful. Again, he says his wife would be the first to say, like, this is the surprising way my life worked out and I didn't end up doing that career and I don't have any regrets, right? I believe him. I don't think he's speaking out of turn for his wife. I absolutely believe this man. And, you know, I would say the same about, I just told you, I left a career in woke entertainment and my life it's not even comparable how much better it is now. Of course I would choose this any day. This is the most important vocation I've ever had, being a wife. Yes.
As a man who gets a lot of praise and has been given a platform to speak to audiences like this one today, I pray that I always use my voice for God and not for myself. Everything I am saying to you is not from a place of wisdom, but rather a place of experience. I am hopeful that these words will be seen as those from a man not much older than you, who feels it is imperative that this class, this generation, and this time in our society must stop pretending that the things we see around us are normal. Heterodox ideas abound even within Catholic circles, for let's be honest, there is nothing good about playing God with having children, whether that be your ideal number or the perfect time to conceive. No matter how you spin it, there is nothing natural about Catholic birth control. It is only in the past few years that I have grown encouraged to speak more boldly and directly, because as I mentioned earlier, I have leaned into my vocation as a husband and father and as a man.
Once again, You may not agree with his beliefs on birth control, just like at the beginning I said, he's giving a lot of he's giving Catholic beliefs, though, about birth control. At the beginning, he talked about euthanasia, abortion, IVF. You may not agree with his specific opinions, especially, obviously, if you're not Catholic, you may not agree with his opinions. But these are not crazy extremist beliefs. These are normal Catholic beliefs that the media is treating like something insane. It's not insane. And speaking at a Catholic university, wake up.
Gentlemen, here today, part of what plagues our society is this lie that has been told to you that men are not necessary in the home or in our communities. As men, we set the tone of the culture. And when that is absent, disorder, dysfunction, and chaos set in. This absence of men in the home is what plays a large role in the violence we see all around the nation. Other countries do not have nearly the same absentee father rates as we find here in the US, and a correlation could be made in their drastically lower violence rates as well. Be unapologetic in your masculinity.
Oh, this is great. This is when he talks to the men. Now, they didn't cover this as much in the media. They're really just upset about what he said to women. So if you didn't actually listen to the speech, you might not know he also addressed men. He said to the gentleman here today, this is the part we just heard, part of what plagues our society is the lie that has been told to you that men are not necessary in the home or in our communities. Men have been told this lie. You notice he started with, when he spoke to women, he spoke of the lie they've been told. He said, you've been told most lies, but men have also been told lies. Look at culture. Look at the effects of social justice and woke ideology several generations in now, where it's sort of men are treated in Mystery Chris and I cover some of this on our fun show, Popped Culture. We sometimes delve into these topics. We did a whole episode on the way dads are portrayed in sitcoms, fatherhood as portrayed in media, and men have become, over the past several decades, like the butt of the joke. Men are useless. They're portrayed as useless and dumb, and they can't actually do anything. They don't know how to operate anything. Not just in sitcoms, but look at what's happening. All the folks who do stuff like Gary from Nerdrotic, Friday Night Tights, Geeks and Gamers, Brahmable, the people who do commentary on movies and video games, and if you're familiar with that part of YouTube and of the critique of woke, then I mean, what's happening to all the representations of strong masculinity in movies, and they're feeding this to kids. Kids are seeing all the male characters replaced. The media wants to treat this like it's a joke, like, oh, these are just angry male geeks who are upset. And I mean, it's not a trivial thing. It's very important. You have young kids who are seeing like all these characters like sort of torn down. And a lot of them, they're changing to women. Was it Batman that had it was Batman. I just remember as from Hill versus Babyface talking about bat women. Bat women, when they were talking about, now Batman is so much better because he's a woman. You got all these strong male characters becoming women. Inexplicably, these women are just like super great at everything, much better than all the men were. They're Mary Sue's, they have no character arc. They're just male characters who are just naturally great at everything and kicking butt and kicking men's butts. They're super strong for some reason. This does matter. If this is the stuff kids are watching and this is the skewed, remember I told you at the beginning, social justice ideology, woke ideology, all of it, whether you're talking about feminist theory or queer theory or Black Lives Matter, like critical race theory, they want to destroy all societal norms. They want to destroy the traditional family. They want to turn everything upside down. They view all societal norms, everything normal and traditional, they view that as oppressive. So they want to show an upside down world. Yes, if you're a believer, this may strike you as satanic. They want to show a world in which women are the strongest physically. Women are the protectors. It's not a reflection of the real world, though. I like strong female characters. I liked them in the 80s and 90s when they weren't part of this complete ideological brainwashing experiment, this psyop on us. Alien, Sigourney Weaver, great. female character, but it wasn't part of this upside down world where we're going to make all the strong characters women. And, that was, I'm not saying don't, if you're hearing, Keri says there can be no strong female characters, you're wrong. And there can be no physically strong women, you're wrong. You don't understand averages and bell curves if you say that. What I'm saying is that all of the strong characters are not women. They're not going to be women. That's not real. The protectors, the archetype of the protector and the superhero and the strong, it should not be a woman. And women don't even like it. We're not going to see those movies. You think we're going to go? Even the woke women, they might pay lip service to it online, but they're not going to go watch those movies. That's why they're tanking. They're not going to, they might pay lip service to it, but they're not going to pay their dollars to watch that crap. So he's acknowledging this is happening. He's saying, men, we've been told this lie that men are not necessary in the home or in communities. As men, he says, we set the tone of the culture. And when that is absent, disorder and dysfunction and chaos set in. This is true. I believe men are, on average, men make better leaders. I believe God created us that way. I'm going further than what he did in his speech, if you notice. Like, don't get mad at him because of what I'm saying. I believe men are natural leaders. On average, not every man, obviously. I get so tired of people saying, not every. Yes, we're talking about on average in generalities here. He says, we set the tone of the culture, and when that's absent, disorder, dysfunction, and chaos set in. This absence of men in the home is what plays a larger role in the violence we see all around the nation. Other countries do not have nearly the same absentee father rates as we find here in the U.S., and a correlation could be made in their drastically lower violence rates as well. Yes, the absence of the father from the home. I'm glad he talked about this. I mentioned those dark Reddit forums I visit and just see what's going on with people, and the relationship advice forums and stuff like that. Do you know what I saw yesterday? I saw a post from a guy who said he was looking for advice. He said, my wife and I are in our 40s. We just got married. We both have young kids from previous marriages. He said, my wife lost her food stamps and her free health insurance or her insurance or something because we got married. And now she's really angry at me and wants me to pay for X, Y, and Z. And I don't know, I can't really afford that. Should I have to? Okay. This whole guy's like a lot of these posts I see, I don't have any advice usually to give. I'm just there reading, because my advice would be like, you need Jesus. Every post, I would just be, you need Jesus, goodbye. You need, but because how do you even start addressing all of this ball of problems out here when this foundation isn't right first, right? That's what I think as a believer. But, people are trying to solve this problem out here. And a lot of them were, upset with his post for different reasons. But one of the things I noticed that they weren't talking about is the fact that this society has incentivized this woman, because a lot of people in the comments going, you guys are stupid. You shouldn't have gotten married. You should have looked at your finances beforehand and realized that the government would take away her food stamps and take away her insurance if you got married. So this society, the way we've set it up with our laws too, our government, not just culture, but government, disincentivizes marriage. They don't want you to be married. Okay. They incentivize single motherhood. You get all these perks. Now, are they really perks? I would argue they're keeping you dependent and they're giving you the bare minimum so that you're a good little, dependent voter who will vote for the people who give you these crappy handouts, right? They've destroyed your ability to have a fruitful, successful, stable partnership, marriage, and a stable home life for the children you're raising, because they're going to ding you they're going to give you these extra little like trinkets, these perks if you stay unmarried with kids, and you better not get married and do anything that, moves towards that stable lifestyle, or you're going to get upset that the trinkets get taken away. That's basically what it is. I remember when I first started leaving woke, I was watching Larry Elder, a video of Larry Elder's. My mind was being blown constantly when I first left woke, because I realized there were all these conservative people I'd never heard of, conservative beliefs and opinions I'd never considered. And so I was watching a lot of videos trying to figure out what I thought about things. And I saw this video with Larry Elder, who's a Black conservative. And he was talking about how a lot of the wealthy, woke, white elite, or take race out of it, just the wealthy elite, the woke ones, they say and believe, some of them really believe these delusional things, right? And he was saying that there was a survey, I went and found this study that he was talking about, this survey, and I verified it was real. I don't have it pulled up today. I didn't know I was going to talk about it, but back then he was talking about this survey where they interviewed middle class to wealthy people, and they said, do you think poor people would ever have another kid just to get more government benefits? And the middle class to upper class people were like, no, how bigoted. Why would you say that about poor people? Nobody has kids just to get government benefits. Ugh, how could you be so prejudiced against poor people? And then they surveyed poor people and they said, would you ever have another kid to get government benefits? Would you, or have you ever? And it was overwhelmingly yes. They were like, yes, we would. We have. And so it just kind of was. I remember that survey blew my mind. That's why I said I went and looked it up to see if it was real, because I was like, yes. And this isn't to say anything. It's not to disparage a group of people for being poor. It's to say that if you set up an incentive, people will take advantage of that. You're incentivizing them. You're giving them a reason to do that thing. And our government, a lot of these policies that some of them were meant to be temporary, now they've just seemingly, I guess, become permanent. They disincentivize marriage and stability and the nuclear family. I wonder why. Could it be anything to do with the dominant belief system in this country, social justice and woke ideology, which comes from Marxism and critical theory and queer theory and feminist theory? Do you think it could be anything to do with that belief system, which wants to destroy the nuclear family and turn society upside down? Do you think it could have anything to do with that? That it might be influencing policy? That's what's happening. And so you've got all these absent fathers for a host of reasons. It's just one of them. But you have these single mother homes, and it's being presented as normal. It's not normal. It's not normal. That's not a moral judgment. That's not saying, hey, you're going to suck if you're a single mom and you're going to be a bad mom. No, it's not saying that at all. A lot of single moms work their butts off, do a great job. What it's saying is that it's not the way it should be. It's not the ideal situation. We could live in a society if we were teaching different values, if society was presenting better values and goals for kids, for women, also, especially for young girls, other than sexual promiscuity and your career and this and abortion is empowerment and woo, if they were pushing other things other than just narcissism and consumerism and all this stuff, people might be happier. Again, I talked at the beginning about women self-reporting how freaking miserable they are now as a group compared to decades ago. And you should see the SSRI, the antidepressant rates are off the chart for white women. It's crazy how many white women are on antidepressants. Why is that with all this female empowerment that's been going on since the 50s? We're all liberated now, right? Moving towards liberation. So great. Everyone's why that would be so weird that they're putting that they're unhappy and they're on lots of pharmaceuticals to try and deal with that in surveys. Why are they doing that? Thank you guys for the super chats. I'm going to read those in just a few minutes. I just want to continue with this part of the speech about his address to men.
And a correlation could be made in their drastically lower violence rates as well. Be unapologetic in your masculinity, fighting against the cultural emasculation of men. Do hard things. Never settle for what is easy. You might have a talent that you don't necessarily enjoy, but if it glorifies God, maybe you should lean into that over something that you might think suits you better. I speak from experience as an introvert who now finds myself as an amateur public speaker and an entrepreneur, something I never thought I'd be when I received my industrial engineering degree. The road ahead is bright. Things are changing, society is shifting, and people young and old are embracing tradition. Not only has it been my vocation that has helped me and those closest to me, but not surprising to many of you, should be my outspoken embrace of the traditional Latin Mass. I've been very vocal in my love and devotion to the TLM and its necessity for our lives. But what I think gets misunderstood is that people who attend the TLM do so out of pride or preference. I can speak to my own experience, but for most people I have come across within these communities, this simply is not true. I do not attend the TLM because I think I am better than others, or for the smells and bells, or even for the love of Latin. I attend the TLM because I believe, just as the God of the Old Testament was pretty particular in how he wanted to be worshiped, the same holds true for us today. It is through the TLM that I encountered order and began to pursue it in my own life. Aside from the TLM itself, too many of our sacred traditions have been relegated to things of the past, when in my parish, things such as Ember Days, days when we fast and pray for vocations and for our priests, are still adhered to. The TLM is so essential that I would challenge each of you to pick a place to move where it is readily available. A lot of people have complaints about the parish or the community, but we should not sacrifice the Mass for community. I prioritize the TLM even if the parish isn't beautiful, the priest isn't great, or the community isn't amazing. I still go to the TLM because I believe the holy sacrifice of the Mass is more important than anything else. I say this knowing full well that when each of you rekindle your knowledge and adherence to many of the church's greatest traditions, you will see how much more colorful and alive your life can and should be. As you move on from this place and enter into the world, know that you will face many challenges. Sadly, I'm sure many of you know of the countless stories of good and active members of this community who, after graduation and moving away from the Benedictine bubble, have ended up moving in with their boyfriend or girlfriend prior to marriage. Some even leave the church and abandon God. It is always heartbreaking to hear these stories, and there is a desire to know what happened and what went wrong. What you must remember is that life is about doing the small things well, setting yourself up for success, and surrounding yourself with people who continually push you to be the best version of you. I say this all the time, that iron sharpens iron. It's a great reminder that those closest to us should be making us better. If you are dating someone who doesn't even share your faith, how do you expect that person to help you become a saint? If your friend group...
This part's so important. So he talked a lot of very specific Catholic stuff there about the Latin Mass and why it's so important to him. But then he gets into this part about who you surround yourself with. And what this says to me as someone who's not a Catholic, I hear what he's saying. He's saying, live your beliefs. Like, your beliefs mean something, right? If you believe in them, you should be trying to live in the things you say you believe in. And so there are some things that are going to make it harder for you. For example, if you're with someone who doesn't share your belief system, then what kind of foundation do you have? If you're dating someone who doesn't share your belief system, what kind of foundation do you have? These other good, like, rules of thumbs or things you should at least be thinking about. If I could speak to my younger self, I would say this. I would say a lot of things like this. Figure out what you believe, figure out what your belief system is, and then find someone who shares that belief system. And you should be thinking about who would make a good father and a good husband, not just like culture doesn't tell young women this, doesn't tell modern day culture doesn't talk about anything with meaning or permanence. It's just all about, getting your rocks off now. He's talking about important things. Iron sharpening iron. Who you surround yourself with matters.
Group is filled with people who only think about what you're doing next weekend and are not willing, or dating someone who doesn't even share your faith. How do you expect that person to help you become a saint? If your friend group is filled with people who only think about what you're doing next weekend and are not willing to have those difficult conversations, how can they help sharpen you? As you prepare to enter into the workforce, it is extremely important that you actually think about the places you are moving to. Who is the bishop? What kind of parishes are there? Do they offer the TLM and have priests who embrace their priestly vocation? Cost of living must not be the only arbiter of your choices, for a life without God is not a life at all, and the cost of salvation is worth more than any career. I'm excited for the future, and I pray that something I have said will resonate as you move on to the next chapter of your life. Never be afraid to profess the one holy, Catholic, and apostolic church, for this is the church that Jesus Christ established, through which we receive sanctifying grace. I know that my message today had a little less fluff than is expected for these speeches, but I believe that this audience and this venue is the best place to speak openly and honestly about who we are and where we all want to go.
This venue, he says, the best place, this venue and this audience. Well, the world at large had a different plan for you, Harrison Butker. You know, the media is like, screw that place, that very specific place and specific audience, the Catholic audience at a Catholic university. We're going to take this worldwide and criticize you out from a place that has nothing to do with Catholicism.
Which is heaven. I thank God for Benedictine College and for the example it provides to the world. I thank God for men like President Minnis who are doing their part for the kingdom. Come to find out, you can have an authentically Catholic college and a thriving football program. Make no mistake, you are entering into mission territory in a post-God world.
Yes.
But you were made for this. And with God by your side and a constant striving for virtue within your vocation, you too can be a saint. Christ is King to the heights.
Wow, look at all those offended people. I'm kidding. They weren't offended. They gave him a standing ovation. They were not offended. It wasn't until the media got their grubby little hands on it and tried to turn it into this thing. But like I said, it reminds me of the Jason Aldean try that in a small town thing, because I think the media is seeing that their attempted cancellations don't work as great anymore as they used to. I saw this, I probably never would have seen it if they hadn't gone after him. And his jersey, a lot of people seem to be buying his jersey now. I think I have an article about that. Let me see. His jersey is, am I right? It's the number one selling one in the NFL right now. People are wearing his jersey to show that they support what he said. And this video has been viewed millions upon millions of times. I thought it was such a great speech. I uploaded it to Facebook and it got a huge response. A lot of times videos don't do well on Facebook. I was hoping people saw his speech and was like, well, if I can add a few views to his speech, but it's been shared a lot. If I'm judging by the reaction that I usually get, it really resonated with most people. And that's a good thing. It's a glimmer of hope for culture and the world. And at the end of the day, this was a speech about family values. Yes, it's a Catholic speech about Catholic values, but in the context of that, he's talking about family values and family roles, family vocations, and how the thing that he kept coming back to, the most important point he kept highlighting, was having a God-centered life and having a life where you have your priorities in order and you are putting family vocations above any other vocation, where you're prioritizing it most. It's the most important, as it should be. And that's what's got everybody's panties in a wad. I'm gonna put a couple of these up. Let's see. I mean, just come on. So there are commentators out there now writing pieces about how I guess he's a kicker on this football team. They need to replace him with a woman, a female kicker. See what the fans of the team think about that. You're gonna have a woman out there kicking. People are just piling on and saying the craziest stuff. So I guess this football team that he's on was invited to the White House. They're trying to get him specifically, not the team, but him rejected from the White House. Okay. Look at this article. Press secretary reveals decision on Harrison Butker's White House invitation. Want him to go to the White House. Kansas City Chiefs kicker Harrison Butker recently found himself at the center of a major controversy. And all the NFL players who've been arrested, who've engaged in illegal, illicit, abusive things, not a major controversy. But this guy saying, hey, maybe put your roles of husband and wife and mother and father ahead of every other role. Major controversy. So he found himself at the center of a major controversy after giving an inflammatory commencement speech at Benedictine College. In his speech, the NFL veteran suggested that women should be more focused on being homemakers instead of pursuing professional careers. That's not what he said. Again, he didn't say instead of. It's not say instead of. His speech allowed for women who pursue careers to still put being homemakers above. Yeah. Now, do I think that most women, when they're trying to, are going to choose one? Yes. But, did he say you can't have a career also, or try to have a job also? No, he didn't say any of that. He didn't say do this instead. He said make homemaker the most important thing. I think by necessity that you'll find that it's going to be a good wife and good mother, and also have some very demanding career, but it doesn't preclude you being able to work, or it's just, which one's more important? Get your priorities in order. So in this, it's having trouble loading for some reason. I think because there's like a video roll, but they basically are trying to make sure he can't come to the White House. And so the press had to address it and said, well, the entire team was invited, and that's what we do always. And so she says, I don't have anything beyond that. We invite the team, and it's an invitation that goes to the team. And so it's up to the team who comes and who doesn't come. Let me just exit this tab since it's being a problem. But they really are trying to get the White House to say this football player can't join his team it's so stupid. They're trying to punish him in whatever way they can. Here, let me add this one. Here's the one about his jersey sales. So their attempted cancellation. Oh, somebody said I was breaking up a bit, Thomas. I think it was. Oh, sorry. It was that page. I should have shut that page down sooner. Is everything okay now? I think it's okay now. Yeah, that broken website. I shouldn't have been on that page. Apologies. Harrison Butker's jersey sales. Let's add this. Surpass Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes. Now, I know who Patrick Mahomes is because he went to Texas Tech, which is where my husband went. So he's my homie. I don't know the other guy. We'll continue. But anyway, I guess they're both very popular guys. Kansas City Chiefs kicker Harrison Butker has seen a surge in jersey sales, outpacing those of his superstar teammates Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce. This spike in sales follows Butker's commencement speech at Benedictine College in Atchison, Kansas, which has drawn sharp criticism and support from various quarters. CBS Sports confirmed this trend. Look at this. According to the official NFL shop, Butker's number 7 jersey had become the top seller among all the Kansas City Chiefs merchandise as of Friday afternoon. They said his remarks at the graduation ceremony had significantly influenced his jersey's popularity. Excuse me. Look at this. This is a cancellation backfiring. I love it. I love to see it. Let's see what CNN says. What do you think CNN, what do they think about it? I wonder. I don't wonder. Come on, you know what CNN thinks? What they want you to think? Why Harrison Butker's commencement fiasco? It was a fiasco. His well prepared, well thought out, well reasoned speech and emotional at times was a fiasco. Okay. His fiasco speech was no surprise. This is by a woman named Tiffany Torres Williams, of course. And she got her little picture right there. Look at her. I don't need no man. I'm a strong, independent, empowered female. And let's see what Tiffany thinks. This week, the internet lit up with news about a Kansas City Chiefs player, and for once, it wasn't Travis Kelce. It wasn't a Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift update. Oh, that's her boyfriend. Got it. A video emerged of Chiefs kicker Harrison Butker giving the commencement speech at Benedictine College, a Catholic school in Kansas. Butker used the 20-minute speech to rail against Biden, reproductive rights, COVID policies, and LGBTQ plus pride. In the middle of the speech, Butker briefly veered towards the mainstream. So do you see what she's doing there? That sleight of hand? They tell you what is and isn't the mainstream, what they think should and shouldn't be the mainstream. So basically, his views are not mainstream. They're crazy. They're crazy now because we successfully upended the patriarchy. We are successfully tearing down everything traditional and normal and mainstream and replacing it with our crazy extremist social justice ideology. So his views are no longer mainstream. That's what she says, basically. He briefly veered towards the mainstream as he congratulated the graduates and encouraged them to pursue their vocations. But then he went on to say that he wanted to address the ladies. You can tell by the way she put that in quotes that she hates that. She hates the term ladies. The ladies who he believed had, quote, the most diabolical lies told to you, which they did. Quote, some of you may go on to lead successful careers in the world, but I would venture to guess that the majority of you are most excited about your marriage and the children you will bring into the world, he said. Butker, who went on to add that homemaker is one of the most important titles of all. It is maybe the most important title of all, considering you're raising children. Not just most important for you as an individual, for me as an individual, for everyone as an individual, the most important for society also. Are some of you guys seriously saying there's something more important than raising children in a healthy, happy, stable environment? Raising children, the next generation of human beings, of people? There's something more important than that? Okay. Very few things. Maybe you could, I don't know. And if you think there's something more important than that, tell me what it is. I might agree with, I can't think of any off the top of my head, but I might agree with one or two, but very few. I don't think being a columnist at CNN, for example, what Tiffany's doing, I don't think that's more important than her role as a wife and mother. I think she is a wife and mother. Yes, she lives in Western Montana with her husband and children. Tiffany, your job as wife and your job as mother is more important than your job as a CNN columnist. It is. It is both for you as an individual and individual meaning and fulfillment, and also for society. Of course it is. He said he got emotional. She said he got emotional when he talked about his own wife, Isabel, and her willingness to give up her ambitions to fulfill her ultimate role as wife and mother. The outrage on social media was immediate and palpable. Did Butker ignite the next iteration of bear versus man debate? On X, the website formerly known as Twitter, one user wrote, Harrison Butker telling women that their college graduation, they've been lied to, and that they would be more fulfilled as homemakers is something. They'll be more fulfilled as homemakers is something. Well, it's the truth. That's what it is. You will be more fulfilled in your roles, your family roles. You will be. His speech also prompted a debate among Catholics, with some saying his comments were not representative of the faith. Well, fortunately, he called out those kind of Catholics at the very beginning of his speech. He spent the most time on them. In fact, the people who claim to be followers of Christ but don't demonstrate it with their fruits. We already know about you guys. There's lots of you in the church. So she continues, my take on Butker's comments is personal. I graduated from Abilene Christian University in 2005, and I was anything but surprised by the content of his speech. Annoyed? Yes, she was annoyed by his speech. Frustrated? Of course, she was frustrated. But surprised? No. Many women who grew up in evangelical culture do not have the luxury of surprise when confronted with anti-feminist behavior. Oh no, let me move my hat a little. It's anti-feminist. Even college-educated women. We are often taught from a young age that our main purpose is to be fruitful and multiply, a phrase taken from Genesis when God created Adam and Eve. That it it's not a controversial view that it's a Christian view. You're going to a Christian college, you just said. That's the Christian view. Our main purpose is to be fruitful and multiply, men and women. God is a creator. He created cultivators. He created us to cultivate and create. Creating life, it's like the most important kind of creation you can do. Maybe maybe the reason there are so many bad parents nowadays is because we take it so lightly, because society and culture and CNN articles treat it like it's no big deal. So what if you got a few kids? Who cares? You got, your job's most important. This is other things most important. Money's most important. And no, it should be treated with reverence and the marriage as well. I wrote an essay about this recently. It's on my Substack about how marriage is just been sucked dry of all meaning, treated like it's just nothing, like it's just dating with extra steps you can get out of it anytime. Doesn't mean anything. Maybe that's why there's so many failed marriages, because culture tells us it's nothing. And being a homemaker and being a mom and father is nothing. Don't need it. Don't need a father. She says, I remember sitting in a semicircle on the story carpet at Sunday school as my teacher moved felt characters around a flannel board to illustrate the origin of humanity. Okay, at this point, she's abandoned critiquing his speech at all. She's just delving into her supposed childhood memories, and we're going to get into all this, but that's all you had to say about his speech, really, before getting into all this? She says, I could not have been older than 4 or 5 years old. There was an Adam and an Eve, and there was an evil serpent. A cloud represented God. Eve accepted the fruit the serpent gave her from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, took a bite, and then offered it to Adam. This, we were told, made God very angry. The teacher moved a lightning bolt onto the cloud. She explained that because Eve tempted Adam, women would bear great pain in childbirth for the rest of time and be subservient to men. You know what you're leaving out here. Also, what did God say about men? That they would have to toil, that it would be hard. Hold on, let me look this up, because she's just talking about what God said about women, and they're part of this creation story. Here's what he said to Adam, Genesis 3:17. To Adam, he said, because you listened to your wife and ate the fruit from the tree about which I commanded you, you must not eat from it. Cursed is the ground because of you. Through painful toil, you will eat food from it all the days of your life. It will produce thorns and thistles for you, and you will eat the plants of the field. By the sweat of your brow, you will eat your food until you return to the ground, since from it you were taken. For dust you are, and to dust you will return. So this woman just leaves all of that out because she wants to try and pretend the Bible is just uniquely set against women. I hate stuff like that. Okay. She says female submission isn't often discussed in secular culture, but it's rife in some evangelical and Catholic communities, including higher education. And while there are some differences between the way I was educated as a young evangelical and the audience Butker was speaking to, there are some important common threads. Many evangelical and Catholic churches teach complementarianism, which is the theological belief that men and women were created with differently complementary purposes. Yeah. Again, you don't have to be a believer to notice that we are complementary. Just look at biology. Women, our bodies are designed to give birth, to shelter a human being inside of our body for 9 months, the 9 months it takes to develop. Men are bigger, they're stronger on average. We're talking about, again, they're naturally gonna be more inclined to be the protectors and to be the ones that God said, toiling at the earth to bring home the bacon, so to speak, to protect the woman who's pregnant or nursing a baby or raising a baby. Like, you don't have to believe in God to be able to observe this. This is nature. This is our ontology. It's the nature of being. It's not a crazy radical belief. Like, she's saying this as if, guess what they teach if you believe in God, they teach that men and women are different and they have different purposes and they're complementary to one another and they're designed differently. Isn't that crazy? Well, we are designed differently. Take God out of the equation. Just look at biology. I don't understand the way she's talking about it, like it's insane. So then she continues, men are supposed to be the financial providers and protectors while women are the nurturers and supporters. Men are supposed to be active while women are more passive. These things are, again, ontological truths in general. There's always going to be outliers. That's what a bell curve looks like this for a reason. It's not all a flat line. It's a curve. There's going to be people at each end of that curve who don't fit into the average, of course. But in general, women are the ones carrying the child. They're birthing the child. They're nursing the child. Is it that crazy and that far of a stretch to think that it might be more natural for the mom, for the woman to wanna be the one that's staying at home while the father goes out and brings home the bacon? That's not a crazy thought. It's never been viewed as a crazy thought until the past 50 years or so. Now suddenly it's insane. That's so oppressive. Excuse me, I keep coughing today. I just Women who were sold this lie that this is so oppressive, women of my generation, a lot of women of my generation are realizing that this was a lie, that we sort of swam along in the current of culture. We're reaching our 40s and we're like, wait a minute. None of this is fulfilling the way I thought it was going to be. There seems like there's a deeper purpose in life and something that I'm missing, right? I saw in the comments. I'm gonna stop reading this woman's crazy CNN crap. Let me pull this down for a second. Being a mother is the most important job on the planet, Elsa Barrett. Yes, it is. I saw some of them in the comments. I didn't get a chance to star all of them, but Cheeky Mare, one of my mods, hello Cheeky. She says, I hate that I believe the lies. Yeah, me too. I wish I could speak to my younger self. John, Keri, those pics you shared before tell the story of how much more happier you are now. Yeah, my before and after pics, when I was in woke versus now, they are very different. um, it's yeah, it's pretty crazy looking at my old pictures, how dark and depressed I looked a lot of the time. Force of Light, I don't know if you're still here, but I love you, beautiful sisters. Hello, Force of Light. Alex Lindstrom. Thank you for the super chat, Alex. Good to see you again. For $9.99, he says, I just joined this live, but I don't believe upholding traditional values has to invalidate those of us who have something different. In fact, I believe they benefit me, even as a single gay man. Thank you, Alex. You're a great example of what I was talking about at the very beginning of this episode with a lot of woke people who like to pretend that all gay people have the same opinions and have come to the same conclusions and live the same way, and that they're all perverts and that they're all, out in the streets at Pride showing their genitals to kids. Like, they have these crazy stereotypical views of gay people. If I speak out of turn and get this wrong, correct me, please. I believe you've told me in comments before that you are voluntarily celibate. I'm not sure. Maybe I'm confusing you with a different commenter, which is an amazing. I can't even think about what that would take to make that commitment to say I'm doing that because of my beliefs. Again, if I have you wrong, if it's a different person, I apologize. There is someone in my comments who's told me that before, and it just blew my mind. But there are tons of based gay people in the chat. I saw I saw Sue in here earlier. She's like, great show, Keri. Thank you. It's an interesting line I walk in these spaces as a lesbian and a libertarian, but I appreciate everyone's perspectives. Take care and have a blessed day. You too, lady. It's good to see you. Okay. Deranged lunatic DL. He is more of a man than Travis Kelce will ever be. I now know that's I always forget this guy's name, but this is Taylor Swiftie's guy, right? For $1.99. Thank you for that. Randy Wallen. Thank you, Randy, for $5. Says no man is a stranger to himself. Oh, no man is stranger to himself than the man he used to be. Jerry Jeff Walker. What a great quote. That is exactly how I view my old life, Randy. That's a great way. I didn't know that quote before, but I'm going to remember it now. Also, I saw you saying something in the chat about SSRIs, that they only work in 25% of cases at best, that you've been on them for a decade. I just wanted to be clear. I also am not a person who thinks antidepressants are wrong in every case. Once again, bell curves, right? I think they're overprescribed for sure, especially in certain demographics. White women are taking them like candy. Gay men also seem to be doing the same. And I think they're definitely overprescribed, and because society's not skeptical about it, that's concerning to me. But have they helped some people? Yes, absolutely. So if you're in the chat and you think like, oh, Keri's personally judging me because I'm not, just, trust me. Floral from Under Rock, good to see you. For 2 Canadian Muppet dollars. Says, well done taking this on. Small, but a big deal. Thank you very much. If you guys don't know Floral from Under a Rock, you should. If you don't know this channel, I'm not even going to tell you what it is because I want you to be surprised. Go check out this channel, Floral from Under a Rock. You're going to love it. Stephen Landau. Hey, Stephen. Good to see you. Says, since when I'm laying on my deathbed, I will not be concerned with being a better worker. The important this is to have my children and family with me. Being a father is the greatest thing I will ever do. Yes. Yes. Thank you. Thank you for the super chat, but more importantly, thank you for this message. This is all that this guy was saying for men and women, that your role as a husband and a wife, as a mother and a father, those roles are the most important roles you will ever play, will ever have, more important than your career. I would argue that in a lot of cases, your role as a friend is also more important. Your role as a friend, maybe some of you are mentors to younger people, but your role as a mentor is probably more important than your job also. Your role if you're a pastor, your role as a pastor, that's a job that's, I would say, is way up there. If you're good at your job, it's a great that's a very meaningful vocation. It's not this crazy extremist thing that they're making it out to be, to say, yes, some roles that we play in life are more meaningful than others. And most jobs and careers wouldn't be at the top of that list. They certainly wouldn't be ahead of the roles of mother and father and husband and wife, of course, or even friend sometimes. Thank you, Stephen. Super based. The Deprogrammed membership fairies here. I so appreciate you, dude. Thanks for gifting 5 memberships and 5 more. So 10 memberships. I appreciate it. Thank you for supporting the channel. Thank you very much. Pirate Tomsky also linked the feminism and abortion panel that I mentioned. If you guys want to go check that out, it's with myself and Brahmable, Odin from OMB Reviews, Michelle from Force of Light, and special guest comedian Chrissy Mayer. We just did that one this past week. Let's see. Java soccer nut. There's a bunch of liberal single women in my neighborhood. Guess who they call when they have issues with security and plumbing? Is it a man? Do they call a man? Do they call you? They probably. That's what I would do. Look, there's this whole world out there that's this whole social justice ideology and the way it's trying to present as if up is down and down is up and what's normal, they say they want to destroy what's considered normal and it's I have to laugh at some of it because it's just so absurd. It's so crazy. One of the things that they push, especially to women, she talked about these diabolical lies and they push these lies that women are, don't need a man. They don't need a man. Now, you may be able to get by without a man if you're in that situation, and you have kids. I'm not saying you can't. There's, as I mentioned, a lot of single moms who work their butts off and to make ends meet and are great moms. It's just, it's not the ideal. And the fact that society pushes it as if it's the ideal, as if that's the norm that we should, they've gone beyond saying don't stigmatize this to saying, just like they do with gender ideology and with trans, they present it as if, none of these things are better options than the other. Just pick one. Do you want to be a single mom or do you want to be, they present it like it's not going to be more challenging. Like it's not, well, they present it like it's the norm. They want it to be the norm. They wanna destroy nuclear families, so I'm gonna show you a funny TikTok video that got posted to YouTube, and this is a great example of what I'm talking about with the lies that feminism is selling women and how it's destroying culture and relationships and, all kinds of stuff. Look at this lady. Oh my goodness, this lady. Okay. A list of things I don't do for my husband, she says. I just want you to listen to her tone of voice and what her emotion. Now, the list of things you may or may not agree with some of these things. Some you may think are unreasonable, some not. Like you don't get lost in the list. Like, well, I would do that one for my husband, but not that one. Like, who cares? I do some of these, I wouldn't do others. Who cares? I want you to listen to the way she's talking about her husband and the emotion, the animus, and I want you to listen to the way she is basically revealing that she's a scorekeeper in her marriage. She's a record keeper, list. She's got a whole list and she keeps score.
A few weeks ago, I said I don't do my husband's laundry. And a lot of people are saying, whoa, 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 those are small acts of kindness. Why wouldn't you want to do that for your partner? But here's the thing, small acts of kindness that are mostly domestic labor just add up to work at the end of the day. So here's a list of things that I don't do for my husband. You all know I don't do his laundry. He can do that himself. I do my laundry and we do the kids' laundry, but he does his own. I don't cook dinner. He cooks dinner every single night. I do breakfast and lunch for us and our kids. I don't pack him a lunch. If he's hungry, he'll figure out what he's going to eat for lunch the same way that I do. I don't make his doctor's appointments because guess what? He's not making mine. Would it be kind of me to do that? For sure. Is it my job? Absolutely not. I want him to be healthy, but he's a grown ass man and he can book his own appointments, right? There's a lot of things that I don't do for my husband. I don't schedule his haircuts. I don't pack his clothes for vacation. Right? I don't do those things. I don't buy him new underwear when it's got holes in it. All of those are things that he's a grown man and he can do himself. Can I do small acts of kindness for him? Of course I can. And I do. I see a vinyl that I think he's going to like because he's creating a vinyl collection. I buy it. I'm at the store and I see something that I think he might enjoy eating. I buy it. I find a new non-alcoholic beer that he wants to try out. I buy it. Right? Those are small acts of kindness. Doing his laundry, cooking him dinner, making him lunch, booking his doctor's appointments, all those things, that's domestic labor. Those are chores. Those are not acts of kindness. Do I do them occasionally when he's working a lot? Of course. Do I cook dinner sometimes when he's had a really long day? Of course. But me not doing that does not mean that I don't show him love or kindness. They're different things. It is not my job as a wife, it is not in my job description to do all the domestic labor as small acts of kindness to my partner and receive nothing in return. I agree with this commenter. If it's going both ways, fantastic. But oftentimes domestic labor, especially when you have children, adds up. And so no, I am not my husband's personal secretary or his personal assistant. I am none of those things. I am his partner. I am his equal. And I do not have to do things to cater to him and serve him at all times to be kind and loving for him.
Can you imagine being married to that? I cannot. I cannot. I've encountered this kind of uh mommy wife in a way, and not a nice mommy. This sort of woman. Back when I sold cowboy boots, handmade cowboy boots in customer service, I would sometimes get guys who would come in. We were on Congress Avenue in Austin. It was these high-end handmade vintage cowboy boots. I loved that job. I loved the boots. I was a fan of the boots for years before. Um, and interacting with people, I loved that. And there was always people in from visiting. It was like a touristy area. And you would get people shopping because Congress Avenue kept changing and still changing. The boot shop eventually moved. But you would get people go, like, the wife might be in one shop and the husband comes wandering into the boot shop while he's waiting for her, or what have you. So anyway, sometimes I get these guys in there and they would fall in love with a pair of boots and be like, I love this, I'm gonna get these. And then this like nagging harpy shrew would come in, just hateful to them. This isn't about not getting the sale. It's not. I promise you. I never put any I probably didn't put as much effort in as some to, get your numbers up, you better. I just wanted people to buy boots that they loved and that they could afford if they could afford it. Like, that's it. Don't buy a boot that you don't love. But I'm talking about mean wives who would just come in and kill their spouse's joy, kill their husband's joy, and just come in and say these cutting things like, "What are you doing? You can't pull that off. Take those off." Like, wow, why do you talk to your husband that way? Or why? Why would you talk to your spouse that way at all? How just toxic, and where does that lead eventually? You can offer again, I'm not hear me out. I'm not talking about women who are like, "Oh, I love those, but I don't think we can afford those this month." Really, it's good to my husband has to do that for me all the time. That's good to do that, to be that sounding board there that's like, don't let your partner get taken away with impulsivity. That's great. Okay. But to be mean about it, to insult your spouse, this woman gives me all of that energy of just bossy pants, has a checklist of who he does his laundry, I do my laundry, and jointly we do the children's laundry. It's going to be 50% every time. She even says at the end, we're partners, we're equals. Okay. You're not equals. I mean, equal in terms of human value. Yes. You're equally valid creations, right? But equal in terms of every little thing you do in the relationship is 50%. Like, how do you live like that? I tried living like that before. It doesn't work. It's a scorekeeping, record keeping, feminist, some crazy, idealistic, non-realistic way of living. It's like, well, I'm doing my laundry. Can I, sorry, I'm not going to include his pieces because that's his business. He's an adult. I'm not gonna make this dinner because that's not my job. We decided 50-50 and I only do the breakfast and lunch. And now I know she said if he's really busy, will she kick in? And I know she said she would, but it didn't seem like she does so with a spirit of generosity. And she keeps talking about kindness. When she mentions the small kindnesses that she does for her husband, did you notice that they're all money? They're all related to buying him things. They're all consumeristic. I spend money. I buy him money. She says these things, these kindnesses around the house are not kindnesses, they're domestic labor. Um, it labor means more, okay? I'm blessed with friends who are very talented, who have spent labor into making gifts for me. This gift, Cheeky Mare made me. This cross stitch here, not today, Joy Eater. That's just one. The things that people have knit for me, the wedding quilt, which I've talked about before, it's amazing. The number of people and the number of hours, that is love. That is time spent. Acts of service. That's what this woman's talking about. She's not going to spend her time or her effort or creativity. Those aren't acts of kindness. That's labor. Yes, labor is an act of kindness, lady. It is. if you think about it that way, it starts to, if you have a person has trouble doing chores or you don't enjoy it, I mean, there's only a couple weirdos who enjoy it. Some of you weirdos are probably in the chat. You're like, I love dusting. But if you start to think of it as an act of love, which it is, it's easier to do them. You know? Why are you so rigid? This isn't the way you treat your husband. This isn't the way you treat your spouse. And I think feminism, all the stuff we're talking about today, has led to this place of they think it's a better system rather than the husband to be the leader, which is naturally, usually in most cases, going to come more natural to him. They think it's better for the woman to be the leader or to be without him or to be some kind of impossible equal thing where you're both fighting for leadership constantly and you're locked in this. There's always going to, even if you think it's equal, there's always going to be a leader. It's probably, if you're the woman who's insisting that you're equal, you're probably the leader. You're probably the woman who comes into the boot shop and yells at her husband and humiliates him in front of other people and insults him. That's probably what you are, the abusive mommy. And I think it's despicable. I don't know why I just keep coughing today. I apologize, guys. Pirate Tomsky for £5. Thank you, Pirate. Give it up for our mod, Pirate. Honey, I've broken my leg. Can you call an ambulance? Sigh, I am not your receptionist. She gives off that energy, doesn't she? She doesn't seem very loving. I'm going to show you one other quick clip. And then I saw Brahma said, excuse me, Keri, did you see the crazy, insufferable cheerleader who responded to Harrison Butker? I did not. So maybe we can end with that. I've already gone, wow, I've gone way long. It's a long video. Okay, but I really have to show you this one first. And then so I've got 2 more clips for you. Let me start with this one. This is along the same lines, the themes. And this is in my feed yesterday, and it's an old clip. It took me a second to remember who this was. Mike Harlow did a parody of this a couple years ago. That's why it looked familiar to me. I didn't recognize her at first. Her name is Buzzy Phillips. And she's some kind of talk show host. She's some entertainer, some famous person. I think both of these tweets I just shared with you were from this guy, Delano Squires. I don't know him, but I follow him. You can go check him out, just to give credit with where I saw these. Okay. This is an old clip again. Buzzy Phillips. This is from about four years ago at a women's rights rally. And again, I want you to listen to her words, what she's saying, and also her manner of speaking, her whole countenance, the emotions, what animates her. Here we go.
Here I was, sitting in Los Angeles in my beautiful office of my own late night talk show. Soon I would be driving my hybrid car to my beautiful fucking home to kiss my 2 beautiful and healthy children and my husband who had taken the year off to parent so I could focus on my career. And I have all of this, all of it, because
I murdered my baby. That's what she's about to say. Except she's not saying it. She's not saying it in that way. But she's saying because of I got to have an abortion at 15. Did you hear the hatred in her voice? Let me summarize. Listen to the things that she mentioned. So it's all of these worldly things, which would be considered blessings, right? These are the way I view these things. They're blessings. They're blessings from God. She doesn't view them that way. And also she views the reason why she has these things, she views very differently than I would. So she says, these are the things that are important to her. My beautiful office. of my own late night talk show. These are the things important to her in life. My hybrid car. Okay. My beautiful effing home. And then she does mention, I didn't put it here for effect, but she does mention her 2 beautiful children and her husband who took the year off to parent them so she could focus on my career. Overwhelmingly, though, these are not family things she's talking about, okay? She mentioned her kids and her husband once, but mostly my beautiful office, my late night talk show, my hybrid car, my beautiful home, my house, my career. And then she says, I have all of this, all of it, because I had an abortion at 15. She attributes all of this material stuff that she values, all of it, all of her blessings in life, she attributes to sacrificing her baby. I'm not imagining this. I'm not, that's what she's saying. I got all of this because I had the abortion. Well, that sounds like a sacrifice to me. Her train of logic here is I had an abortion, which is a killing of a fetus, which is a baby, whether or not you think it should be considered legal, whether or not you think it should be considered murder in the legal definition, the legal sense of the term, we can all agree it's still the killing of a human being who's inside the womb. It's the killing of a human being. She killed her baby. Whether or not you think that should be legal, okay? I'm not going to use the euphemism, okay, abortion, but that's what it is. It's the killing of her baby. She says, because I did that, I have all of this now. Yes. I have my beautiful office. Yeah. My hybrid car. She put hybrid in there. Isn't that funny? My hybrid car. She has to let you know how virtuous she is, right? Even in her bragging about how material things. My car is a hybrid. I even have my soy lattes, because I killed my baby. All of it. My beautiful home, my house, my career. This is a demonic speech, in my opinion. Just incredible to me. Incredible that she attributes that to the abortion. It's not like she's not coming at it from a place of saying, I have all of these blessings that God has given me despite my sins, despite not deserving it, despite killing my baby, despite aborting my baby, despite all of my mistakes in life, all of my bad choices, my bad actions, my bad words, my sins, God has blessed me. Thank God he blessed me in this way with these 2 healthy children. She mentions my husband. Now, since she gave this speech, she and her husband divorced. I'm not really. Are you surprised? I'm not really surprised. But it's just a totally inverted way of looking at everything. I think she tells you in that speech what she values, and what she values most are these temporal, ephemeral things of the world, which don't mean anything in the end. Your career and your big fancy office and your Los Angeles living in LA and your hybrid car and all that stuff doesn't matter at all in the end. But it's so important to you. And then what's worse is that instead of saying, I have all these blessings despite all the bad things I've done, you say, I have these things because I killed my baby. That's crazy. It's just crazy. I just don't know. Well, obviously the marriage is over now with her and that guy that she was mentioning, but your kids, What's that like for them to hear their mother give that speech? It could have just as easily been you, kid. It could have just as easily been you, but you're supposed to think you're loved and valuable and very important to her, not like the one she aborted. She had to abort that. She had to kill that kid so you guys could have all of this. So crazy. Randy for $5. Her show was canceled after a season, separated in 2021. I didn't even know what her show was. Thank you for that. Thank you for the super chat, Randy. I had forgotten who she was. Erica, I think it's a cope from an empty vessel searching for meaning. It is. Erica, you're so right. Don't you think? She hasn't dealt with what I think is the most natural and normal thing to deal with after an abortion, which is the dealing with what the reality of what you did. And if you haven't dealt with that and you still view it as nothing, what I did was nothing, it was meaningless. Then you're right, Erica. You can go so far as to like double down the other way. I had to do it. It was necessary. I had to make the sacrifice for all of this, right? Like you can go way too crazy doubling down. I think you're exactly right. It's a cope. I think she probably has a lot of unresolved grief around that. That's just what I think. Pray for her if you pray, that woman. Buzzy Phillips. No, of course she did. Brahma Bull. She groomed one of the kids into a they them at age 10. Of course she did. Oh, that doesn't. Yeah. It's like a script, right? You could just write this character. You could write this woman. Narcissist who raises a they them. Of course. Ah, I still say pray for her. Somebody says I'm going to pray for her. Oh, never mind. No, please pray for this. Pray for her kids. You know, pray for her kids. Crazy. Okay, I think that's related. I think that's obvious how that's related to this topic. I think this is where we're at now with the upside down values that feminism has tried to impart. And I used to buy into that cult. I've only recently stopped calling myself a feminist. I stopped calling myself woke. I left that woke cult in 2016, 2017. But there are a couple of things that have taken me longer to shed. And one was the word feminist, because I was kind of thinking, well, the original intention means this. And, it was hard. That one was like dug in hard. It's only recently that I've shed that one. And I realized, like, wait a minute. I don't think it's a word worth saving. I think liberal is a word worth saving. What that means, what it's supposed to mean. The leftists have tried to take that word, change it, and turn it into something illiberal. And I think that's a word worth saving from them. But feminist is, I think, on the whole, if you judge the entire movement, all the waves, the lasting impact of feminism has been negative on society. And it is about tearing down the patriarchy, tearing down tradition, tearing down the family, tearing down all that's normal and orderly, and all that allows for human flourishing and humans thriving and human success and love. And so for that reason, I'm no longer a feminist. I think it was my first joke at the Feminist this morning. I said, good morning to all happy, sane people, and also to the feminists. Good morning. Okay. The last thing, we're going to end with this. I did not see this one until you mentioned it, Brahma Bull. So let's pull it up. This is the cheerleader who has started criticizing Harrison Butker. Oh, wait. I almost hit the wrong button. I almost closed out everything. We're ending with this, guys. I know it's been a long one. If you're still around, thanks for hanging out with us. This is from the New York Post. Ex-Chiefs cheerleader goes scorched earth on Harrison Butker. Quote, stay in your effing lane, she says. Harrison, I could have told you not to use that woke phrase. They would just turn it right around on you. Harrison Butker's recent commencement address at Benedictine College has been criticized by a number of people across the sporting spectrum. But now one former Chiefs employee is speaking out. I don't know why I'm doing that voice for this. It's just so much of these articles, they're written like it's like a gossip. It's written like this gossipy girl who's all you. I could just imagine the writer talking like this is how they talk. And so they're at brunch with their friends, and this. Did you hear what Harrison Butker said? Like Stephanie Hills, who said she had been a cheerleader with Kansas City's NFL team, posted a video on TikTok on Wednesday in response to Butker's weekend speech, which had discussed topics ranging from President Joe Biden to criticizing the government's COVID-19 response to working women. Again, when did he criticize working women? I'm still missing that. Okay. Hills, who in her TikTok bio said that she had become an NFL cheerleader from 2018 to 24, addressed her video directly to the Chiefs kicker. Let's see.
Until a few months ago, we were both employed by the Kansas City Chiefs. I cheered you on for 6 years straight. And with that, I would assume we went to the same PR training. But since all of that obviously left,
I'm gonna have to restart this. I really hate this character that she's putting on, this eye thing that she's doing, and it's just such a smug. There's got to be a word, just one word descriptor or adjective for this. This is so common in woke videos where they just take on this persona and they're just a smug, sarcastic shrew.
we were both employed by the Kansas City Chiefs. I cheered you on for 6 years straight. And with that, I would assume we went to the same PR training. But since all of that obviously left your fucking brain when you went to go give that speech, I thought I'd be a good coworker. Share my notes. Let's get started.
Arrogant.
Biggest takeaway is you now represent $1 billion organization. You are no longer just Harrison Butker. You are now Harrison Butker, who plays for the Kansas City Chiefs. And anything you say or do that doesn't align with that brand, scissoring just like the lesbians who made it in that video.
What?
Will be grounds for termination. Not entirely sure if that last part is gonna apply to you, but I guess we'll find out. A quick minute to dissect some of the language in your speech referring to abortion, IVF, euthanasia, and surrogacy as degenerate culture values. Do you see how that maybe doesn't align with the brand COVID fiasco? Now, I would assume you know what fiasco means, but just in case you don't, you're referring to the pandemic as a humiliating failure.
Yeah.
You know, we had an entire fucking PR training on COVID, bro.
Do your opinions all come
We
from a
weren't supposed
PR
to talk
training?
about it. You referred to gay people as deadly sinners. The gays love football. We don't want to lose them as an audience, so you might want to reconsider calling them deadly sinners. Life begins when you become a wife and mother. Skip ahead. That leans into her most important title of all, homemaker. You know, we're not going to unpack this from a PR standpoint, but I do want to let you know that the Kansas City Chiefs offer a therapist covered at 100%, both male and female. And I advise that you probably need to unpack that with both professionals. You called the president delusional?
Yeah.
You know, I think the organization would let that one go. A lot of Republicans in Chiefs Kingdom. The best part of your speech, when you said stay in your lane 10 plus times. Bruh, take your own advice. Kick some balls around. Stay in your fucking lane. Thank you. Hope you enjoyed this informational training. See you later, coworker.
Gross. I couldn't pause that or it was going to restart every time. That's my first time seeing that. Thanks a lot, Brahmable. Gross. Couple just, it's hard for me to even watch it because I want to pause it and just critique it. This woman is not living consciously. I'm going to make some very broad judgments here, but she's not living consciously. She's wearing a character and it's a smug, sarcastic, morally superior, intellectually superior, and falsely so. She's claimed this false moral and intellectual high ground. She's speaking down to you, that condescension, contempt, right? It's dripping out of her voice, her eyes, the faces she pulls, all of it. It's disgusting. This is so common in the TikTok videos and stuff from the woke left. A lot of them adopt this persona. It's so gross. I don't know how I question if you have real friends. I do. Unless they all act like this. I question if you have real friends. Do you have a boyfriend? Do you have anyone in your life other than your parents who likes you? Maybe all of your friendships are the kind of friendship Aristotle talked about, the ones of utility. Maybe you're all like this and you're all using each other and you all sit at brunch going like, listen up. Maybe you didn't read the menu, okay? But they say that brunch is like, do they all just sit at brunch talking to each other in this condescending voice? Like, gross. Who wants to hang out with someone like that? I don't get it. I don't have much else to say. Yes, Russ, I say this all the time. Thank you. They don't have friends. They have allies. These people don't have friends. It's a character they wear. I don't know if they take it off, though. I really don't know if they take it off. Maybe they always just sort of like, yes, snide. Thank you, Carmen. Carmen Smith Studer for the perfect adjective. I was looking for the word. It's snide. Smug wasn't quite there. They are smug, but the snide is the perfect descriptor. Cluster bees, yeah, cluster bee. It reminds me of cluster bees, yeah. But snide. Just who wants to hang out with that person? Imagine if they don't turn it off and everything's like, I know that it's really hard for you to understand that when there's a dish in the sink that it needs to go into the dishwasher. Let me break this down for you, husband. Yeah, like that's what it would be like to live with her, probably. Everything is through this filter of arrogance, snideness, condescension, sarcasm. Nothing they say is grounded in truth, or nothing's grounded in authenticity or compassion, or it's just all this place of contempt. They say contempt is the number one relationship killer, by the way. Overbearing, yes, that's true. Carmen is full of wisdom, yes, snide. Okay, we're gonna end it with that snide video. Thank you, Brahma. I'm glad I got to see that. No, really, I'm glad I got to see it. I appreciate it. It's just awful. If that's all they have, if that's all the other woke side has, then I mean, we have nothing to fear. I know they own all of culture right now. But we've been doing a great job of pushing back and tearing down the crap that they've erected, the meaningless crap. And at the end of the day, they don't have anything. They don't have truth on their side. They don't have likability, very unlikable, and they don't have good arguments. They just have snideness. So I'm going to wrap this up on that positive note. That's all they have. Okay. That's it. Good. Goodbye, new friends, says Erica. Goodbye, Therese. Good show. Have a great week. Have a great week, guys. On Wednesday, 8:00 Central, Mystery Chris is going to be back. We're doing a show, a pop culture. We do it every other Wednesday. And we're going to be he goes down these rabbit holes that are so much fun, takes me with him. We're going to be looking at reality TV shows from the 2000s and how they've impacted culture. And we'll probably be looking at some gems. We'll likely get banned from YouTube, but we are simulcasting on Rumble now. So you can always follow us on Rumble. Skillet for $10. Wait, you're still going? Here's $10. Great show. Thanks for the tip, dude. Thank you. Yeah, this is probably the longest show I've done in forever. Have a great week, guys. See you later. I'll catch you on Wednesday. Take care.